Fucking please. Please be good. Sick of settlers. I'm pretty sure everyone's sick of settlers. It's been like a year. Please be good. Alright, where should I put myself? Should I put myself... I'll just put myself over here. Be less intrusive. Frisia was pretty good though. It was pretty good. I actually enjoyed Frisia a lot. That was a fun league. Event league. You gotta watch official stream. Got yours open too. But it's kind of low quality here. Fair enough. I mean, if they're streaming and... Oh my god. What? I'm logged out. Oops. Yep, drops are definitely enabled. Fuck it. Nah.
Hi, I'm Jonathan Rogers from Grinding Gear Games.
Oh my god.
Today we're here to showcase a new expansion for PoE 1. It's certainly been too long since we
Not
had one of
good.
these.
Yes.
Now, we had some struggles as a studio for a little while there, but we've got our shit together and we're back in action now. Path of Exile Secrets of the Atlas is coming out 1 week from now on the 13th of June, and we're committing right now to a 4-month cycle for both PoE 1 and 2. That means the next PoE 2 League will be in August, and the next PoE 1 League after that will be in October.
Hell yeah.
Twitch drops are enabled on today's livestream, so you'll be able to claim your Skull of Undeath helmet skin by following the instructions below.
We do have drops
This
enabled.
Skull of Undeath
We
will
should.
track and show your total number of kills, deaths, and your KDR. Just because Path of Exile isn't a first-person shooter doesn't mean this isn't important. Proudly or shamefully, link it to your friends or in global chat to show it off. And with that, let's get to why you're here. Secrets of the Atlas.
Oh.
You can search 1,000 worlds and still never truly discover.
Reload check. Thank you.
Trust me. I should know. But now, I seek something more tangible. Someone I care for. Trapped within the Atlas.
Oh shit.
Reliving memories. Made real.
What have you done?
Made grotesque. Made foul. These
Ooh.
manifestations must be destroyed.
Oh, new bosses. Oh my
Their
god.
threats must be eradicated.
Wait, so it is
I must
synthesis.
have answers. We must find the originator. We must save my sister.
Oh. Zana's brother? Yo. Hey, look, it's Cyclone. New crafting mechanics. A completed King's March. Oh shit, King's March is just done.
Come, child. Drink deep the waters.
Fuck, what was that?
You're either a client or a target.
Mercenaries.
Job's done.
Oh, mercenaries? What? Oh my god.
Your sanity is not promised to you here.
Oh, that's poggers. Oh my, too much info too fast. That was so good.
Game director on Path of Exile.
Oh, there's so much
As you
shit.
just saw from the trailer, there's a lot to show you. Today, we will take you on a deep dive into the new Path of Exile Secrets of the Atlas in-game update. Then, we'll explore the new Challenge League, the Mercenaries of Trathus.
Okay.
After that, we'll
Can you
cover
turn
the
stream up a
integration
bit?
of Gold
Okay,
into
sorry.
PoE 1 and how we're bringing Settlers of Kalgur into the core game. Finally, we have a much-awaited upgrade to Betrayal League and a set of quality of life improvements.
I should have had that up higher.
Then
My
we'll wrap up by
bad.
discussing our Boss Kill race event, showing you our new supporter packs, and ending with a live Q&A session where Ziggy D will ask Jonathan and I your questions from Twitch chat.
Okay, okay.
In Path of Exile Secrets of the Atlas, strange rifts have begun to appear across the Atlas. Zana has returned and appears to be trapped within. Partway through the endgame, you will meet Egan, an intelligent man of mysterious heritage.
Egan.
These tears in reality he has discovered are actually threads of memory, distorted and made real by the Atlas. Egan is able to create a link to these memory threads and open
Ooh.
portals to them.
Look at that
Working
portal
with Egan,
effect.
you
That's
must
kind
step
of cool.
through and find Zana, or whatever remains of her. Okay, so that's the story background, but how does this expansion actually work? In the Secrets of the Atlas, the pursuit of Zana with Egon is a new storyline that is introduced in high-tier maps. Upon meeting Egan and discovering the tier, he will then transfer it to your map device and reveal this on your atlas, a thread of memories. In
Holy
order
shit.
to now access each map on the
Please
thread,
don't be like
you
Affliction.
simply need to
I
talk to
kept
Egan
running
when
in the
you're ready,
wild by
and
accident.
he'll open the areas in sequence.
Oh.
These areas can be fully influenced by your atlas tree, scarabs, fragments, and everything of the sort.
Interesting.
As you work your way along the thread, you will discover that these maps have manifested dangerous threats, influenced by the memories of Zana herself. Monsters here are imbued with memory petals. Defeat them to absorb this power, which can be unleashed as a special ability during combat. Different maps on the thread have different abilities, and these abilities appear on an additional mini skill bar next to your regular skills. For example,
What?
Memory of Disbelief will cause all affected monsters to stop dropping equipment items, meaning they can now only drop more valuable items, like currency and maps. Memory
Wow.
of Panic will make all affected monsters revive immediately after death, which means you can get twice as much experience and drops from them.
Huh.
And Memory of Impatience will cause all surrounding enemies to give you their souls, temporarily increasing your power.
What?
As you progress further into the thread
Okay.
of memories, the maps can have more than one memory, and thus you can have more than one powerful ability.
Wow.
As you gather memory petals, you can use these powers together. Each skill costs its own amount of memory petals. So using the examples above, you can first use Memory of Impatience to become way more powerful, then use Memory of Panic to prepare them to revive when they are slain, then use Memory of Disbelief to cause them to drop better, more valuable items. Finally, obliterate them all. The Memory of Panic will kick in, causing them to revive, and then wipe them out again, allowing you to get all the experience and enhanced drops twice.
Not sure about that mechanic.
There are many combinations of these powers, so you'll have to carefully consider how they best work together.
It kind of reminds me of
That's
Sentinel.
not the only extra layer of content juicing these maps offer.
Was it Sentinel?
As
The
you
one that
defeat the boss of
introduced
each map along the thread,
combining.
you are presented with an altar. This altar will apply a modifier to all following maps in the thread, and these will stack as you go. So the deeper you delve into a memory, the more mods you will have.
Wow.
This, combined with the special abilities, will allow for some of the most juice maps ever run in Path of Exile.
Oh.
Let's take a look at some of the altar mods. You are always presented with two choices and must pick one. This mod, for
Wow.
example, will cause some rare monsters to be
Juice
possessed by
League.
tormented spirits. Where this mod makes Kerak modifiers free to craft. Both of these apply to all subsequent maps in the thread. The final map in each thread is a true challenge, with all the altar mods applying to it and guarded by a powerful boss. Each of these bosses are familiar, but dreamlike, drawn from Zana's memories and warped by the Atlas into something very different and terrifying.
Ooh.
In this
That's
map,
cool.
you will fight the pinnacle boss, Cirrus. Fueled by Zana's affectionate memories of him, his enhanced abilities can prove to be a unique challenge.
Ooh.
If you manage to defeat Cirrus, or one of the other warped memory bosses, they will drop a map fragment, which Egan can use to delve deeper into the memory tears. With these, you can access a set of 3 new pinnacle bosses.
3. Oh.
In
3.
this arena, the moment of reverence, Zana is reliving a memory of her father, Valdo. giving a passionate speech in Oriath. The Atlas distorts this memory of her father as a powerful, influential man and manifests those emotions into a twisted nightmare, the incarnation of dread.
Oh my god.
Another memory created is the incarnation of neglect and the incarnation of fear. Good luck, exiles. Of course, if you are brave and strong enough to defeat them, each of these new pinnacle bosses have new unique items befitting them.
Whoa, is that a new
If
influence?
you slay the incarnation of fear, you might be lucky enough to find the Star Caller unique abyssal axe. We're gonna show this one because it's straight up badass. The Starcaller axe is a weapon that can harness the power of the stars themselves to deal immense damage.
What the
What makes
fuck?
it shine, however, is that on melee crit, it casts Starfall, a new
It's-
skill.
It's
With
literally
the right build,
cock.
you can carpet entire areas and wipe out screens of enemies
Fuck,
as you
that
rain
actually looks
down
really
the
cool.
elements upon them. Another item you may find, and this one is my favorite, is the Wine of the Prophet unique flask. It consumes a lot of charges, but every time you use it, you draw a random divination card.
What?
This card appears above you and correlates to a powerful buff. If you draw the Escape card, you'll gain increased movement speed. Or maybe you'll draw the Doctor, which will cause you to gain the modifiers of slain rares you kill.
What?
Effectively, you can think of this unique as being many other uniques all in one. There are many cards to draw, each with varying degrees of power to grant.
Wow. Fuck.
Okay, but let's get back to the Atlas. After defeating all 3 new pinnacle bosses, you'll be able to find new memory-influenced Tier 16 maps. These maps come with the previously mentioned special
Having random
abilities
power
and
is
monsters
cool.
infused with memory pedals, but can also roll the same modifiers typically found on Tier 17 maps, making them
What?
far more rewarding.
Interesting.
With all
Juiced
these new
Tier
memory maps
16s.
comes a new item mechanic. Items in these maps can drop with memory strands, and will have a random amount, up to 100. This does a few things. When you identify the item, it will increase the tiers of modifiers your item has. Generally speaking, the more memory strands, the better the item will be.
Wow.
On top of this, whenever you're crafting that item using currency orbs to replace or add modifiers, such as alterations, chaos, and so forth,
Wow.
it will consume some memory strands to make the crafted mods more powerful.
Holy shit. That's
the
actually
new pinnacle
cracked.
bosses also drop new crafting currencies, which can be used to manipulate the amount of memory strands on an item. The Orb of Remembrance will let you add memory strands to any normal equipment. So if you have your perfect base to craft on, and it doesn't already have memory strands, you can add some before crafting it.
Wow.
The Orb of Unraveling will consume all remaining memory strands on an item to randomly upgrade its mod tiers.
Oh, that's cool.
This orb's effectiveness is based on the number of memory strands it consumes. The Orb of Intention can be used on memory influence maps to reduce item drops, but improve the chance to find items with memory strands. In the process of adding these new currency items, we realized something was missing. The Shaper and the Elder did not have their own Exalted Orbs. This has now been rectified. Both bosses now have Exalted Orbs, which can add their influence to an item.
Shaper exalted.
Zana was there from the beginning, when the Shaper Pinnacle fight was first added. She helped defeat the Elder, and she was a critical part of the Conqueror's storyline. Now, with all 6 influence types having their own Exalted Orbs, the cycle is complete. It's almost as if we could now do some sort of new, epic, unique item to interact with them. In other news,
What the fuck?
there of course has to be Atlas passive tree support.
Oh
for this new
my
in-game content.
god, what the
Let's
fuck?
take a look at a few things.
Oh
around.
no. They're
The Grasp of the
oh.
Past notable passive skill increases the chance for the amount of memory strands on items dropped in your memory influence maps to be lucky. This means it will roll the number of memory strands twice, keeping the highest value. By allocating traumatic experience, remembered kindness, or educated upbringing, you'll decrease the chance of finding memory threads that lead to specific bosses, meaning
This
you'll
is-
have better chances at finding the memory threads you would like to run. This is especially useful if you want to target farm a specific boss because of its unique item drops. In sum, the secrets of the Atlas will have you questioning what is real as you
Great
attempt to
Crafter League?
free
Yeah,
Zana from
super,
warped
super
memories
good.
scattered throughout the Atlas. You'll fight new Guardian and Pinnacle bosses tormenting her, find crazy new Pinnacle uniques, combine and unleash memory petal-empowered skills, juice maps to new heights, and craft powerful new items. While we were showing all the juicy rewards from the new in-game system,
Why does
you
memory
might have
strand sound
noticed that a lot of
mandatory?
gold
Yeah,
was dropping.
that's my...
Let's talk about that.
Because in
Gold was
Affliction League...
introduced during the Settlers of
Okay, well, I
Calgar
won't talk
expansion.
right now.
It funded the development and operations of King's March, along with various new features such as the currency exchange, the
Okay.
black market,
Okay.
and the passive respec system with Faustus.
Okay, that's still there. Nice.
Those features offered by Faustus will be here to stay, along with some of the other services King's March has to offer. We'll get more into that later, but don't worry, King's March has already been completed. There will be no more town building.
Thank God.
Like before, gold will be used for town services, but we're also adding a new way to use it in the upcoming league.
Hope Branding still wants to play.
It's time to talk about Mercenaries of Trathus.
Trathus.
In this league, you will meet veterans who have travelled all the way from the lawless cities of Trathus. They're ready to offer their sinister services, but not for free. You will encounter these mercenaries as you journey through Rayclast, one in each area. They have their own personalities and come with different builds, skills, and items already equipped.
Ooh.
After meeting them, as per the Trathan Code, they will challenge you to a duel, a test of strength and conviction.
Is that an MTX
Before
for,
beginning the duel,
for
you'll be
Elihin?
offered an overview of the mercenary you've encountered. Here,
Ooh.
you can see the gear they have equipped,
He has burning
the
arrow.
skills they employ,
Heck.
and any support effects augmenting those skills.
So is this
You
all
must now
randomized?
make a choice. You can hire their services, take one of their items, or exile them. If you choose to hire them, for a gold cost, they will accompany you as a skilled combatant to assist you in fighting monsters throughout Rayclast. Once you've decided, you can begin the duel. This is a great opportunity to test them, as you don't want to be out of pocket with a useless rookie. However,
True.
they're testing you too. They also don't want to be working for an amateur.
Is this Diablo
So,
now?
what items might they be using? Generally speaking,
Even
mercenary
better.
gear is more powerful than what you'd normally find from defeating
Whoa,
monsters,
that
as
ring.
they've been crafting their items too. They can also come equipped with unique items,
Ugh.
those that would make sense for the skills they are using. There are even some new unique items that can only be obtained from defeating them. One such unique is Scornflux.
Whoa.
These boots combine agility with the mastery of the arcane.
What?
While equipped, increases to
Arcane
cast speed from Arcane
Surge?
Surge also apply to movement speed, which is worth noting is now 20% inherently from Arcane Surge,
Wow.
up from 10. They also grant Arcane Surge when you use a movement skill.
That's
this allows for
interesting.
some speedy spellcasters. Sometimes you may meet particularly infamous Trathan mercenaries, bearing the
Seismic
name of
Crush
their
skill?
house. These mercenaries descend from the 4 major death trade families in Trathus.
Clutches
They are
of the
less common,
damned.
but have far better items.
Holy
And they
shit.
are also the sole source of items with new, infamous modifiers, unseen before in Rayclast,
That's a
such as
ring.
these gloves, which convert all of your minions' fire damage to chaos damage.
Whoa.
Or this helmet, which causes nearby enemies to take more physical damage as you gain more fortification.
Wow.
If you're not swayed by any of their equipped gear,
That's kinda
however,
correct.
you can always challenge them for the contents of their pockets. If you lose the duel, don't
Support
worry.
auras.
You don't need to give them an item. You aren't bound to Trathan tradition like they are. However, you are bound to Rayclast tradition, so you'll just die.
Almost at me. Well, not really.
While playing in a party,
Damn.
each player can decide whether or not they want to participate in combat
Support
against the
auras.
mercenary.
That could be really cool too.
For each player that opts in,
New
the
Spectral
mercenary
Shield
gets more
Trans
difficult.
Gem.
But if they're defeated, each player has a 50% chance to get a random reward, which
Maybe
is
Bleed
usually
Spectral
currency
Shield Throw
items
is
from
actually
the
gonna be good
mercenary's
now.
pouch.
Huh?
Alternatively, party members that opt out of the fight can spectate and cheer you on. Or they might wish for your demise, so they can pick
Divine
up their
Orb on the
allocated
floor.
divine waiting off screen.
Dead. Good.
Let's say you won the duel, like their items, and have decided to hire them.
It's
What
toxic.
combat skills do they bring to the table? Each mercenary has an archetype. Here, this mercenary
Tectonic.
is an Eruptor, which perfectly couples with my slower, more aura-focused Scion. This mercenary is highly aggressive, and will get a lot of benefit from the auras and buffs I
What?
provided.
Wait, you can become a full aura bot for your mercenary.
When I'm
That's
playing
so
a more aggressive
cool.
character myself, though, I'll want a mercenary with a bit more resilience and utility. I've just run into a Striker, who can spawn with Vigilant Strike. And if you're lucky, a very rare golden support that causes the Fortify granted by his Vigilant Strike to apply to me as well.
Wow.
He will also frequently use Enduring Cry, taunting enemies off of me, and operating as a tanky frontline while I blitz off damage from the back. Sometimes when you fight a mercenary, you may notice the
Ashen
skills they're
Fisher.
using are different from normal. For example, this sniper is using a Trathan version of Siege Ballista. If you're lucky, you will be able to select it as your reward when challenging them. Then defeat them, and they'll drop the Trathan gem as promised.
Whoa.
You
New?
can only have one
Oh my
mercenary
God.
accompanying you at a time, but up to 3 total in your service. The other 2 will wait patiently in town. Having varied options is useful, as there may be situations where you need specific backup, like a difficult boss fight. Any of your mercenaries you have active, or in your reserves, can have their equipment replaced with items of your choosing. They don't level up, so you will want to be looking out for more skilled and more powerful mercenaries as you
Wow.
advance through the campaign and endgame.
Oh, that's so cool.
If your mercenary falls in combat, you will need to return to town and spend some gold on healing supplies to get them back on their feet. Then perhaps consider giving them some upgrades, if you think it's deserved.
Good God.
I just wanted to clarify, mercenaries do not lose their equipment when defeated. If your merc buddy consistently fails you, you can just dismiss them and find a new, more resilient ally.
Yoink. Dismiss.
You walk your path, I'll walk mine.
Wow.
Earlier, I mentioned you could exile mercenaries.
This shit
If
is
you
gonna be
keep running
good. It
into a
is.
mercenary archetype and you think, man, this guy stinks, their gear is trash and they have no auras, you can then choose to exile them.
Whoa.
If you win the duel, they'll be forced to leave with their tail between their
What?
legs.
Did Spectral
and you
Shield
won't
throw
encounter
is
that archetype
cracked?
again for a while. Now, alongside these new Trathan arrivals, we shouldn't forget about the recent Kalgurin ones too. As we mentioned earlier, the Settlers update introduced gold-based respeccing of passive points. You can now do so by talking to a number of NPCs throughout Rayclast, starting with Bestil and Lionized Watch.
Yo. Bestel.
Black market item gambling, previously just available in Kingsmarch, is now available in each town at the same NPC.
Oh.
This lets you buy randomly generated item bases for gold. Very useful if you're stuck for upgrades or searching for a specific unique. The currency exchange will be returning too. Starting from Lionized Watch in Act 6, you'll be able to find Faustus, who can help
Tabula
facilitate
farming.
these trades.
True.
Now, after almost a year of
Was
building,
cheap on the gold respec,
Johan is
really nice for
finally
early game,
satisfied with the
yeah,
upgrades
super
made to the
cheap.
town. And now its services can be used to their full effect. Kingsmarch is going
When you
core,
swap to
but there will be
Parasite.
no more town building.
Nice.
As you start running maps in the endgame, you'll start to find different ore veins, which Kalgurin workers can mine for you. The shipping mechanic invites you to send these ores and crops to Karui and Kalgurin ports, and they'll return rewards in kind. By sending shipments, you'll receive different items, but by sending to Karui ports, you will also receive tattoos, which can be used on your passive tree to change what stats they grant. The Kalgurin ports will be sending back
Gamble was
rune
really
grafts,
good to get early 5
which is a
links.
new passive tree mechanic that replaces the runesmithing service previously offered by the town. These are similar to tattoos, but instead of replacing stat nodes, they replace a passive tree mastery node.
Oh.
For example, Runegraft of the Bound reduces bonuses gained from boots, but increases bonuses gained from gloves. Runecraft of the
Wow.
River has a chance to recover your life to full if you reach low life.
Wow, that's
And
weird.
the Runegraft of Time, which has a chance for your cooldown skills to instantly recover from their cooldown.
That's
Which I
pretty
will
cool.
note includes cooldowns on your triggers, just in case you wanted to trigger even more spells.
God, that's
There are
that's
many other
insane.
Runegrafts which cover a wide range of different builds and stats. Some are more common and
Do
others
they
rarer.
stack?
You can only use one of a given type at a time, but you can
Oh.
use them on any mastery on your passive tree, which can be particularly useful for off-class investment.
Wow.
Lila has continued to make modifications to the Recombinator. She has developed a new method of recombination that you may recognize from Path of Exile 2. For those unfamiliar, this method allows you to decide which modifiers on the two input items you want to try merge together, and it has a success chance you can see. This method can result in the items being destroyed. However, it is a good option to use when trying to create items with fewer mods to use as crafting projects. Given the existing recombinating mechanic was very powerful for top-end crafting, we
100%
didn't want
chance
to remove it.
not to consume
We have
cooldown.
kept it, and
yeah,
you can now
that
choose to
would be
use it the old
insane.
way or the new way.
This is PoE
By
2
letting
recon
Fate
now,
decide,
so
it
it
will combine the
sucks.
two items randomly. There is no risk of destroying either item, but it will be less predictable.
It did.
As Settlers is now a core mechanic, we've also added Atlas passive tree support. For example, if you wanted to gather more Verisium ore, you could
Distracted
take
player
this
still
notable.
there. Good, good.
Each ore has a similar node.
Oh, what?
Refiner's Bargain converts items dropped by possessed monsters into thaumaturgic dust, sulfite into random ores, and life force into random crops.
Oh, interesting.
We've also added a set of Kalguran scarabs, so you can add more ore deposits, increase the rarity of monsters that guard ore deposits to at least magic, or gather smelted bars from ore you mark instead of ores.
Oh.
To sum it all up, Kingsmarch is now a thriving town where you can employ a swath of workers to collect resources, refine ores, craft items,
So what other Atlas nodes are they
and run
removing
maps
for
for
all
you.
these new ones? That's a good
send
question.
shipments of resources in exchange for tattoos and rune grafts, using those to modify your passive tree to an extent never seen before. Following on from that, we've also made a substantial rework to another important mechanic.
Okay, let's see what they
Betrayal.
did here. Oh,
As a refresher, and to explain to new players, let's briefly explain what Betrayal is. Betrayal is a mechanic introduced in Act 9 and tells the story of Jun Ortoy and her investigation of the Immortal Syndicate. This is a mysterious group of exiles who can seemingly come back from death. You must help Jun to uncover their leader, the Syndicate Mastermind. The Immortal Syndicate is organized into 4 divisions: transportation, fortification, research, and intervention. As you encounter the Immortal Syndicate members, you'll gain intelligence for each of these divisions to discover the location of their leaders, tracking them to their safe houses.
he has the crit
Defeating
screen
the
streak
division
on.
leaders at their safe houses will reward you with intelligence on the Syndicate Mastermind. In your journey to track down the Syndicate leader, you'll manipulate the members of the Immortal Syndicate to change divisions, form friendships and rivalries,
Did I just see
and
gear
even
drop?
banish them from
Veiled,
the Syndicate for a time.
veiled gear still drops?
Historically, after encountering and defeating the Syndicate Mastermind, the state of the Immortal Syndicate would reset, requiring you to start from the beginning of the investigation again. This has always been a difficult decision for players and can often feel bad. Do you fight the Mastermind for a chance at the special loot, or keep farming the safe houses that
Holy
you've spent
shit,
so
balls.
long setting up? Well, in the Secrets of the Atlas expansion, we've split out the Mastermind to be completely separate from the core mechanic.
Oh, wow.
The boss is now accessible through a new fragment that has a chance to drop from the safe house leaders at high levels.
Oh
The
shit.
Mastermind no longer resets the state of the Immortal Syndicate.
Oh
You can now
wow.
build your betrayal board to your liking, optimize it, do Mastermind fights, and reap the rewards
Also, that
without having to
ballista
lose
skill looks
all your
nuts.
progress every time. The boss fight itself has also been improved, now with significantly fewer immunity phases and new rewards. By the way, if you're a new player to Path of Exile 1, don't worry about all this detail. This content is optional, and you can discover and engage with it at your own pace.
Bro, the bit rate.
The Mastermind still has a chance to drop a Veiled Orb, now renamed to Veiled Exalted Orb. Veiled
Okay.
Chaos Orbs are being re-added to other safe house leaders. In addition, the
So we
Mastermind
trading
now drops
masterminds
the
now?
new All Flame
Apparently.
Embers.
Oh,
All Flame
shit,
Embers are
All
map
Flame Members are
fragments that
back.
replace monster packs and in-game maps with different types of special monsters.
Oh, that what?
These packs have unusual properties, compositions, or rewards. For example, you might use the All Flame Ember of Kulamak, which replaces packs with Syndicate monsters and their leaders, who revive after the map boss has been slain. This might at first sound annoying due to backtracking, but these monsters when revived are far more intense and rewarding. It is our intention with
Man.
All Flames to provide many different types that combine with other mechanics, multiplying with your existing modifiers in new and interesting ways.
Oh my god, All Flames are back. Let's go.
Another good
Let's
example
fucking
of this
go.
is the All Flame Ember of Propagation. When slain, special rare monsters added by this All Flame here will spread their modifiers to other rare monsters in the map. This can be useful when trying to create singular, very powerful, and very rewarding monsters. Something akin to meat sacks, which are making a reinvented comeback with this update too. Another is the All Flame Ember of Resplendence, which
What
adds
league
monsters
added
that
All
drop no
Flames?
items. But when you slay
was
them,
the
you
Corpse
get buff
League.
stacks of increased quantity and rarity to
City
enhance the
Square
drops
League.
of all other monsters.
Uh-oh.
All Flame Embers can be placed in your map device like Scarabs, and used in conjunction with Scarabs to further
You skipped that
customize your
league?
maps.
Ah.
We're looking forward to seeing which combinations players find to enhance their maps. Perhaps you'll use all Scarabs, all Flames, or maybe mix and match. It's up to you. The Mastermind's unique items have also been improved. The veiled modifiers generated on these items are now from a custom pool exclusive to those uniques. Bitterbind Point, for example, can now have various Spectre-specific outcomes,
Wow.
such as +1 additional Spectre.
Wow, that's actually good.
Aside
Holy
from
shit.
improved rewards from the Mastermind, all the safe house rewards have also been rebalanced. We've done a pass on the crafting sprees at the end of many safe houses. For those who aren't aware how these crafting sprees work, well, it's simple. There's a crafting
Ball of
bench with
mischief
an item
buff?
in it
Yeah.
and a bunch of currency. There's a limited amount of time, and your only objective is to craft the best item possible before the time ends. One of the problems that the crafting sprees have is that they often require you to have specific items on hand in order to best maximize your result. But how are you supposed to know that beforehand? In order to solve this, most of the crafting sprees now offer pre-generated items. This has also allowed us to add much more powerful crafting options in each spree.
Ooh.
Let's take a look at a few examples.
Ooh.
In this spree, a randomly generated amulet or ring will be waiting for you.
What?
Test your crafting skill or luck with this Reflecting Mist crafting spree, and see if you can
Oh, that's
create
cool.
something worthy of Kalandra's praise.
I don't do it.
And in this spree, you will find a pre-generated unique item,
So much more
and
time
a
to
new kind
craft,
of orb
yeah.
that resembles a Val orb, but not
What?
quite the same. Normally, you can only corrupt an item once, but uniques in this spree can be corrupted and re-corrupted as many times as there are orbs.
What?
This orb also allows you to get 2 corrupted implicits, and has a much lower chance to break the
3?
item. It can be a very useful tool for seeking specific corrupted implicit outcomes.
Wow, that's
Of
actually
course,
really
if you push
insane.
your luck, you can still ruin the item.
Hell yeah.
There are also crafting sprees
Wait,
where you still
that
need
thing
to
was kind
provide
of
an
cracked.
item,
What the fuck?
but those items are generally more accessible and it occurs less frequently. This one allows you to bring your own normal rarity item, then just go ballistic with a whole ton of scouring orbs and orbs of chance, hoping to get your ideal unique. For most sprees, the rank of the syndicate member increases the amount of currency provided, the quality of the pre-generated
15.
items, and the time allowed to craft your item. Aside from the crafting sprees, there are other new options too.
Ooh.
If you love gambling for currency, how about you try opening Varici's Emperor's Luck chests? These work just like the Emperor's Luck divination card and provide full stacks of currency.
Oh.
If you're lucky enough, unlike me, you could end up with a whole lot of divines.
Imagine corrupting a mage blood 10
Betrayal
times.
is a good
Oh
source of
my
veiled
God.
items. Veiled items have some important quality of
Yeah, that
life
would be
improvements in this
insane.
expansion too. All of the crafting bench options normally granted by unveiling items are instead now moved to the core game. so you don't need to run Betrayal to unlock them. They are instead found at the entrances to boss rooms and in-game maps. On top of that, you no longer need to speak to Jun to unveil items. You can just right-click them, or the equivalent on gamepad, and select which veiled modifier you want to unveil.
I am.
Overall, Betrayal is now much more streamlined and more rewarding.
Super
Happy
rewarding.
interrogations.
What? That's massive. Holy shit. Betrayal is like gigantic now. It's so good.
Now before we get into our quality of life additions, let's quickly talk about some character balance. We will be doing our regular character balance changes where we
Time
are
for
bringing outliers
Wintertide.
in line to
Oh
help evolve the
no.
meta, but we are also focusing our attention
Betrayal
on
is
buffing
stupid
some
big now.
specific
It's
things.
massive.
This includes spellcasting supports that specifically enhance self-casting builds, channel
Whoa,
spells,
60%
adding
more
new
damage.
options to the Guardian, Berserker, Elementalist, Saboteur,
Random
and
Shrine.
Champion Ascendancy
Oh.
classes.
Hey, Saboteur,
which include
yes.
some favorites from some of the alternate classes from Legacy of Freesia,
What?
and buffing
50
a whole bunch of
Whoa.
transfigured gems that never really hit the mark. Combined with the new endgame crafting,
Saboteur
improved
gets
betrayal crafting options,
50%
rune graphs for your passive
return.
tree, new
Oh
pinnacle
my
unique
God.
items, new modifiers and Trathan gems from the mercenaries,
Projectile return,
and of course the
yeah.
mercenaries themselves to act as an extension
Sab
to your
might be
character.
insane.
It's safe to say there's a lot of new character options and builds to think about.
Oh
Instead of delving into all
my.
of these in more detail, we figured we'd just let you absorb them through the patch notes so you can do it at your own pace. In the Secrets of the Atlas expansion, we've also added a lot of the quality of life features that we know you've all been asking for. A lot of these have already been posted, but let's take a look now in case you missed any. You can now pause the game at any time by pressing escape to open the menu, or by opening any
More build to
full-screen
think about.
interface, like the passive tree.
Kick W, it's
You'll
power
also be
siphon
paused if any
only.
lag is detected,
Oh.
or if you disconnect. It's worth noting that in certain
Fuck.
pinnacle arenas, a debuff will be applied to you that prevents you from pausing.
Projectile return is a power siphon buff.
We're
We just
also
do it on
making a change
Sab.
to how you use currency items on strongboxes and monsters imprisoned in essences. Based on the currency in your inventory and the state of the strongbox, these buttons will appear. Valuable currency like divine orbs have been excluded from this as it would often be wasteful to use in this context. The same applies to essences with the remnant of corruption currency. Orbs of Horizon have been updated. They can now re-roll your Elder and Conqueror Guardian maps. Doing so will re-roll the base map and the Guardian of that map.
I wish that
The
this
map
would take
device now
currency from
has
the
a small
stash.
additional
Yeah, that
inventory.
would be nice. That
This
would
is
be
particularly
maximum
useful
quality of
if you're
life.
rolling many maps to run in sequence, or if you want to use varying amounts of scarabs or other map fragments. During breach encounters, all the splinters will be automatically collected and dropped at the end of the breach.
That's a good one.
On gamepads, we have separated the targeting of monsters and non-monsters, so you are able to target them independently. This removes a bunch of frustration when you are trying to interact with objects in the world and monsters are nearby. You no longer have to kill all of
The
them
breach
first.
range is big. I love breach. Yeah,
Vendor
it's
windows
super
will
good.
now remember your last search.
This one is huge
This is
too.
remembered until you log out and is remembered on a per NPC basis.
Even
The
sell
amount
me a
of
stash
characters you
tab
can
from
type in
app
the
device
search field
only.
has also been increased. When using currency items, after right-clicking them, it will highlight all other items which that currency can be used on.
That's really good too.
There are many
PoE
other
quality
quality
of
of life
life.
improvements, so keep an eye on the patch notes after this livestream concludes. Alongside the launch of Secrets of the Atlas, we are hosting a competitive event where players will race to be the first to kill the new pinnacle bosses.
Ooh.
The event will take place in the hardcore, solo self-found,
I think you don't
Mercenaries
have to
of
copy
Trathus
paste your
League.
regex now every time
We
you
have some
search.
interesting
Yeah, that's
prizes
really
in store
big.
for the winners. Keep an eye on the
And
news
you can
of the
have a
lead up to
larger
launch
regex,
for
which
more
is really
details about
good.
how the event will work and what its prizes are.
Oh, this music.
Next up, we're going to be talking about our new League supporter packs. Today, we're launching two new series of supporter packs, the Frisian Magistrate and Crypt Keeper packs. Each tier contains the pack's full face value in points,
Pepega credit.
alongside several exclusive
Let's
microtransactions.
go. Let's see
As
what
always,
we have.
the microtransactions in these packs are purely cosmetic and do not affect your character's power or progression in any way.
Fuck.
The Frisian Magistrate series of supporter packs contains 6 exclusive microtransactions.
What the fuck? That's straight
The
from
Frisian
PoE.
Magistrate character effect will bind your character in thorny vines and roses. You can select which parts of the character you want to have covered,
Oh, really?
Either
That's
your
kinda cool.
entire body, your lower body, or your upper body.
Eh.
As you approach waypoints, it will emit leaves and golden petals towards it. When activating the waypoint, it will create a burst around you.
Oh.
Envelop your weapon in thorny vines and golden flora with the Frisian Magistrate weapon effect. Your weapon will also create a trail to match as you swing, and even comes with its own hit effect when slaying enemies. You are the law while wearing the armor of the powerful Frisian Grand Magistrate. The Spider Blossom Pet activates
That's
its
so
defense
mid.
mechanism, disguising it as an elegant flower when near rare or unique enemies. The Frisian Imperial Magistrate back attachment comes in
You
two
spent over
forms.
1k on
Equip
FTX.
either the
Still
tombstone
use one
variant,
set.
which will leave tombstones in your honor when you meet your demise,
Oh.
or equip the cape variant to cause the corpses of slain enemies to become enveloped in rose-thorn vines and blossom with golden flowers. Keep track of how well, or poorly, your ultimatums with the Trial Master have gone with the Trials of Chaos hideout decoration.
Oh no.
It will keep track of the total number of waves completed, the total number of ultimatums succeeded, or even failed. On top of that, it will track the total number of times you've defeated the Trial Master himself.
That's
the
for long
Crypt
day.
Keeper Pack series also contains 6 exclusive microtransactions.
Good God. That looks
With the
insane.
Crypt Keeper finisher effect, death itself will tear through into the realm of the living and steal the soul of slain unique enemies.
What the fuck?
The Crypt Keeper
This was
portal
made for
effect
me.
creates a gateway for lost souls to pass through.
Holy shit. That actually looks pretty good. Wow, that actually looks really
Become
good.
the true master of the undead by wearing the hallowed Crypt Keeper armor set. It comes with a more armored helmet variant and a creepy mask with a spectral hood.
Ooh, the helmet looks cool.
Looking to have some fun during idle time in your hideout?
What the
The
fuck?
Burrowing Bramble Bash hideout decoration will
Hell
test your
yeah.
reaction speed as you try to whack as many Devourer heads as possible in the shortest time.
Hell yeah.
It also comes with a scoreboard, so you can try to set new records to show off to your friends or just visitors coming to trade. Equip yourself with the Ghostly Dead as you ride the line between the living and the dead with the Sacred Crypt Keeper back attachment. The Sacred Archives map device resembles a magical library with the works of scholars that come to life when you open a map.
This map device
This
looks
map
fucking
device
correct.
tracks how many of each core league you've completed in in-game maps.
What?
These packs are now available for purchase on both PC and console, and will remain so during Path of Exile Mercenaries of Trathus.
An FPS
Additionally,
and
any
hideout.
microtransactions from these supporter packs will be
True.
made available for use in Path of Exile 2.
Oh.
Meanwhile, the Paladin and Penance packs leave the store forever at the launch of the Mercenaries of Trathus League, so now's your last chance to purchase them. Additionally, the Dawn of
bought
the Hunt
those?
mystery box will be made available for Path of Exile 1. If you have already unlocked any microtransactions from this box in Path of Exile 2, you will of course immediately have access to them in Path of Exile 1. Thank you so much for your ongoing support. We're just about to start the Q&A with Ziggy D. Afterwards,
You don't like any
we'll
of
post
those?
the full patch notes for
Sedek
Path of Exile,
feels bad.
Secrets of the Atlas. With release at the
Ah. What?
end of next
No.
week,
Oh.
our community team will be posting crucial information you'll need for the release. Keep
Stop it.
an eye on the news. Thanks for joining us today and checking out our latest developments.
Time to
We're looking
read.
forward to dueling mercenaries, fighting new pinnacle bosses
Oh,
in the endgame, and exploring the new crafting systems and character builds next week.
no. The stream is dying. People are saying F, so...
We'll begin the Q&A shortly, so please get your questions ready.
Oh, so it's not just me. Yeah. Oh. It's not only you? Thank God. Yeah, people are saying F. Damn. Big lag.
Welcome back, Exiles, to another,
Oh.
I expect, very large Q&A covering all that we have to cover for Secrets of the Atlas. I am, of course, joined by Jonathan and Mark. Welcome back.
New item
folks.
shown on that link? Ooh. Please. The stream is dead.
Chatting with us once again.
Always great to have you over.
Yeah, cheers. Thanks for being here as well.
Yeah.
That's it. There was a lot of I think pressure on this one for you guys. Like, it's been a long time since we've had a big Path of Exile 1 expansion.
Sure,
and,
for sure.
How did you guys feel going into this, and how do you feel like you've been able to?
This FPS is Affliction League worthy. Holy.
I mean, honestly, I'm like
New
pretty happy
RF
with where we're at.
ring?
Like, it isn't a it isn't a full year of
God, this one's
development,
cool.
because obviously PoE 2 disrupted
Yeah.
things a bit. But the main thing is we're kind of back in action now. We've worked out the model for how the studio can function doing the stuff, and ultimately what it required is kind of like
Stop it. Please.
merging the teams back together, kind of having everything so that like everyone's able to work on both games. Not
Where's my
necessarily
patch
simultaneously
notes?
for a given person, but effectively, we need sort of our best people to be able to work on both games in order to really make sure that they're good. And so that effectively means that merged sort of approach is definitely
After Q&A. Please.
way better. And so now we've kind of got that, and now that we're back to sort of fixing deadlines again and everything like that, I think it will just go a lot smoother. And
That's a
I'm pretty
scam.
happy with effectively that we kind of got our
Oh, okay. Technical difficulties. You don't care about Q&A? Damn. Alright, let's look at these things while they have technical difficulties. This looks pretty fucking cool. Whoa, yo, this armor looks fucking cool. What? Yoinked my skull of undeath. What? Give that back right now. 1 Val soul per second. Oh. Chance to curse non-cursed enemies with random hex on hit. Wait. Impending doom? Nova spells cast at marked target instead of around you if possible. Also remember that when they said they added stuff for self-cast, please tell me they did it for Power Siphon. Oh man. This challenge armor looks better than any of the MTX they have on these packs. This looks fucking good. Ooh, what is this? Howlcrack Azomite Burgonet. Non-instant warcries you use yourself have no cooldown. An additional life cost. No. Oh! It died. Oh.
What a hotel. Right?
Cringe, bro. Prospero's Protection Iron Ring. Gain no armor from equipped body armor. Armor equipped from shield is doubled. Wait. Isn't this spectral shield throw? Does this actually make the armor and damage from spectral shield throw insane? The Nova Mastery is big. Damage penetrates fire resistance equal to your overcapped fire res. Wow, wait. Is it? RF does no hit, penetration does nothing here. Are you sure? Listen. Hit explosive arrow, chieftain stacking fire res. Oh no. EA log in. God damn. This axe though. is kind of correct. Doesn't fire trap hit? It does. EA Totem Ring. Don't tell Tenreal. That ring on Chieftain is gonna be nuts. That's some good shit. Ugh. Oh.
So I
Oh, we're
did
back.
ask the question that after nearly a year since the last major Path of Exile release, it feels like there's a fair bit of pressure on this one to be something pretty major, but also to show that you guys still love and care about Path of Exile 1 and have a future for it.
Sure, yeah. So, you know, as I was just saying, you know, like I feel like we've kind of finally got our shit together as a studio now, you know, as I said in the intro.
Honestly, if you go all in fire,
we've sort of changed our approach
EA
with
like a truck.
We've merged the development teams back together. We've kind of got everyone on one floor
Should be
in
pretty
the
damn
middle layer,
good.
like all the developers. And now we're kind of making it so that, you know, we're effectively moving people, you know, backwards and forwards from PoE 1 and 2 sort of like as needed. And that's definitely a much better structure for us because it just means that we get, you know, like all our best people can work on, you know, whatever game needs it right now. You know, we've always worked well.
Where's my POB
with, like, kind of the
update? Gotta
fixed-
craft
in
my
the
power
past, sort of
siphon build.
The fixed deadline model where it's like, you
Ah,
know,
we need the
have a
patch
fixed deadline,
notes.
but if we and what's in the patch depends on what's ready by the time we get there, and I think that's just going to result in a much better experience for players. And so now that we've kind of got that, I mean, this really represents, you know, what we can deliver sustainably, what we can deliver in 4 months, you know, and so we'd expect to see this kind of, you know, like amount of content every 4 months, you know, as we go forward, and for PoE 1 and 2 as well. So, you know, now that things are back, I would say, like, you know, we're kind of back in our stride again. Things should go a lot smoother from now.
In sum, we're back.
That's not
We're so back.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank goodness we're back.
Yeah, yeah.
I did feel like that. I feel like the reception's been very positive so
Yeah.
far, and I've
Yeah,
having
yeah.
a bit
We're
of a chance
back.
to play around with mercenaries, which are exceeding my expectations in terms of like how fun and powerful they are. I feel like you guys have made them really powerful too. So
We've honestly been talking about making a mercenary for like probably 5 to 10 years. Like it's been one of those things that
You've been
keeps
telling me
coming
about
back
it for
up.
years.
Yeah, exactly.
It came up with the PoE 2 Rogue Exiles, came
Yeah.
up during Settlers League,
Yeah.
came I mean, that's just the
Harvest farming with your
recent
merc.
time, a year ago.
Bro,
Well,
I
yeah,
can-
stuff.
you guys baited
What?
me pretty hard because last league you put out
You
this
can-
system where you know you have these
You
exiles
can
that
make
you send
an
out on
Aurobot
maps, and I'm like,
Scion
we're gonna
and
gear
make an
them
OP
and all this
merc.
stuff, and it's like,
Oh.
oh, I can't wait. That's what I've always wanted. And then you know it wasn't that, and I'm like, oh, now you're never gonna do that.
So you're
'cause you
just
did
gonna
this
have
instead. And then literally next league,
the
you
best
actually-
merc
you did
ever.
mercenaries finally. So was it like waiting on something? Was there something that needed to happen there?
I guess it was more just a
I
question
did
of
say
having a
that
good design
earlier.
for how it could work. And,
Yeah.
you know, there was a
Convert
couple of other things. One thing
all to
that
fire,
wasn't really
play
mentioned
Power Siphon
in the,
Chieftain with
video very
penetration
much is that
stack.
the mercenaries do count as half a player for the purposes of
Fire
drops
is
and
less in the
monster
conversion
difficulty.
chain before chaos.
And so that's going to kind of change the calculus a little bit. You're effectively getting 9-player difficulty and loot, which there is some differences to the way that works now. But yeah, that's kind of one of those things that if we just added mercenaries without doing something like that, then it would mean that you know, the game would be too easy. So that's why we've kind of got that situation going on.
It means like, you know, at best,
Look like
if you're
specters
a more,
/ minions
you know, bad
getting
build,
above
bad
2.
character, new player, whatever you want to call that. You know,
Pretty-
they're going to
pretty
carry you probably,
good.
or could carry you. And at worst, if you're, you know, the power of 10,000 gods and have infinite everything and screen coverage and DPS, then they're just boosting your loot, right? So there's a flaw there on either side that is just going to be beneficial to every single player. So
That sounds like absolute beautiful chaos, like 6-player party plus 6 exile mercenaries.
our initial design had it that you could have up
You
to
could just
6
have a cranked
players
minion
or,
/
you
merc
know,
build. Yeah.
1 player and
And you just become the
I guess 3
Autobot.
players and 3 mercenaries, you know?
Oh,
It was
that's
like
so
a mercenary
cool.
takes a player slot is what we initially
That was
had.
the initial way to think about
Yeah.
balance, but I think it wouldn't have been nearly as good because
We
like
ended up
you want
going
the
away
mercenary to
from
be
that.
part of your build to kind of feel like it's actually
Yeah.
you know, because you know, it comes with like auras and things like that. Like effectively that all becomes part of your build at that point. So it's kind of important that you don't have to sacrifice that when you're playing in a party
and
with other
it
people.
didn't want to have the thing of like, okay, you join your 3 friends and then whose mercenary gets used.
Party
do I-
play is
do I not get to have my guy
correct.
now and I don't get, you know. So it's, you know, we ended up getting away from that and just going, everyone bring the
One
merc
person
and-
plays Aura,
which
1
resulted in
curse,
peak
2
chaos.
mercs carrying map.
But,
Oh,
you know,
true.
it's
That
fun.
would be insane.
And I mean, you can also have an animate guardian, and you did tell me that there's changes for that as well.
Yes, so yes, of course you can have. In fact, I expect a lot of people to now have.
Now to
You
remember
have your
to claim
6-player
drop.
party with your
Oh.
6 mercenaries and everyone with them animate guardian because. I mean, how can
get
you
like
add mercenaries and then
500%
have a
pen,
point to say that
which
they
will carry
don't drop loot when
damage.
they die and also not make the same change to animate guardian? However,
Any hitting skill converted
if
to
they
fire
do
on
die in the
chicken with the
instance, you
rings
can't bring
playable.
them back. So
Seems
at
like
least
it.
there is still that penalty to having them be weak. So if they just die at the start, they're gone.
Until you play another.
It's
We
gonna
reckon they'll
result in
allow
a,
all mercs in party
a lot more
because
people
of
using
MP's
Animate
group.
Guardian in their build, but now you have to gear up your character.
Maybe?
1 Animate Guardian and 1 Mercenary, so we'll or multiple mercenaries technically, so we'll see how the itemization and trade economy goes in that regard. And
Yeah, I mean that's kind of cool though. Is like having all that extra demand for gear, and that's yeah. I was certainly like thinking about how I want to keep some of this gear aside for like the potential mercenary I was trying to find and things like that. But that adds a lot to that. But
This is
I
an
did want to, before we
insane
get started
trade
into some of the new
league.
content, just kind of like help ease people who maybe are a little bit worried about the future of Path of Exile just a little bit more.
I think we're gonna lose
this is
Dennis,
what you hope to be able
guys,
to deliver
to
every
trade.
4 months, and you've got a much more strict kind of like approach to that now. Where you were saying to me like, well, if this thing that you're talking about is not ready, then it's not going in that.
Yeah, exactly.
Whereas before
Since
you would push the
penetration
date
does
up.
not
Exactly,
affect
100%. So
does not actually
we've been in
reduce
the kind of
enemies'
push the date
resistance.
mindset,
It
I
is
would
not
say, for like a
affected by the
couple of years
200%
now.
res
And
cap.
in the past,
go
we were never
nuts with
like
it.
that. We were way more strict with it, and I think it was definitely beneficial to do that.
Mister's gonna have fun
The issue
in
was it was so
hardcore.
hard to develop PoE 2 at the same time when we had all that stuff.
he is.
So now that we're kind of like in the mode where we can support both with the release frequently, it means we can kind of go back to that model. And as I said, I think it'll just be way better.
we're I just want to make sure we are always going to be that whole like plus or minus 1 week flexibility because you have things
Sure,
like
sure. There
public
might be like a- yeah,
holidays,
exactly.
conventions,
Right.
clashes with things and all that. So obviously you get that
Yeah.
just before we get held to the strict to the day 4-month thing. But yes, it is the goal. 100% you go back to that. I think there is it is very, very important that you
And
have,
before Bunny
you
Merc
know, as a
lore,
player and a
oh
long-term
my
player of a
God.
game, of which many of our players are.
That would only
you have
happen
that
if one of the
consistency
mercs
and you
have
know what
like
to expect, and you can
Shaper's
be like,
voice
yes,
actor,
you know,
then it's
I've played
already
for my
there.
month, I've played for my 2 months. I know I can just stop for 2 or swap to the other game, do that, and then I can know it's going to be coming again in 2 months instead of
PoE
that
will
just
be
like
there for me again when I need it.
that like unknown is very sad, honestly, as a
Yes,
developer
yeah.
and as a player, and I certainly don't want to do that ever
I
again.
imagine it has a toll on the team in terms of them like knowing, because it's hard to make content, I imagine, and just not have it get shipped. Like, because it's the dates
I
being
mean,
pushed out. Or...
it depends on the person. Some people
Yeah.
kind of like actually prefer that more. Some people do really like the deadlines. It's honestly a variety.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
a bit of a mixture. And you mentioned blending the teams together. That's like a big change, whereas before you
Yeah.
were explicitly trying to separate them, and there was the question of like, well, there's problems with that, right?
Yeah. Well, so I mean, we had problems when they were blended originally, like years ago, where PoE 2 wasn't getting like it kind of wasn't working because that deadline was so far out that it kind
Yeah.
of works. We had to split the team to get PoE 2 shipped at that point. But now that we're back and like releasing frequently, it just makes more sense to bring everyone back together again. And it keeps the expertise up and makes sure that like the games are. There's just technical things like making sure that the engine is like in sync for both games and that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. Like, there's just so
Fuck
many
PoE
elements that
2, we
make
got
it better to have everyone,
3.26.
merged together. I think.
I imagine it helps with the cross pollination.
this league looks so
Which is
good.
For sure.
one of my most wanted quality of life improvements. That's a phenomenal announcement. But I certainly see people asking about things like WASD and stuff like that. And this support for the future is
Unfortunately,
a thing.
WSD just can't really happen because, well, okay,
Well,
I say that, but
yeah.
there's the thing, right? So effectively, in order for WSD to happen, we would need to be able to change the rigs over to the PoE 2 character rigs. In order for that to happen, we need to get all the micros ported over, and then we'd need to port all of the armors from PoE 1 over to those rigs as well. So it would be
You
a
know what?
really
Fuck
long-term
what the
thing.
patch note says.
There
You're
might be
gonna
a
have
world
fun.
one day where that can happen, but it's certainly a long process. to get
That's what I
there.
was
Nah,
kind of
you're gonna
wondering
look
is,
at the
like,
patch
do you
notes,
envision
trust me.
a situation where Path of Exile 1 is like
Whether you like it
warrants
or
that
not.
sort of massive effort
Unless you need to go
in
to
a year or
bench.
two or something like that.
was also
Once we've got all
true.
the microtransactions ported, which we're doing anyway, then it wouldn't be like so bad. I mean,
Yeah.
it would be a lot, but not like not like completely unreasonable. So it's a thing that could happen, but yeah, it's a lot of effort to get that feature. So the main reason to do it isn't even for WSD. It's because we've been pretty unable to make.
The only
new,
time I look at
combat
them is when you
animations
do
for
on
PoE 1
stream. I don't
for
know
so
when to
long
bother with
due to
them.
all of the
Really?
problems with the rigs. So
Huh.
the main reason to do it would be that we can make like
God
new
damn.
actual melee skills properly again. That would be the reason.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully we can get to that. It's just it'll
Yeah.
take a while though.
A lot of the skills you notice, and if people have been playing PoE 1 for years, any of the new skills we add often just reuse the same animations.
Exactly.
and they're not exactly the most modern things in the world.
Not so much you can do with it now.
You don't get to do the cool custom flurries with like your swords and combos and all that kind of stuff.
Okay, why I
and,
decide what I want to do.
I mean, you
5
still
minutes
obviously have
before
cycling.
league.
You
Oh
just spin
my
in a
god!
circle, and if you remove all the effects from that, you're literally
Because
just on a
most
pivot,
normal
so it
people
looks
don't
a
look
little
at
bit
that.
silly,
Hey.
but,
I mean, I am keen to do it though. Like
Yeah.
it's just it'll take a while.
Yeah. It's I feel like I notice the kind of an increasing disparity between like the bosses in PoE 1 kind of like pushing further ahead because you have a bit more freedom, I guess, to use more modern.
Well, the bosses are new,
stuff,
like new
technology with
content,
it.
right?
They're
So
straight
yeah,
up
they
PoE
get to
2
just and the
style.
engine's the same, so you get to use all the modern tech for completely new content.
So
like that.
they're looking.
I
like
hope
better
you're
and better,
doing
but
well,
the
Jamie.
players, like, are
Yeah.
kind
Getting
of staying a bit
scanned.
behind. So
don't
You
need to rig
called
anything
him
to the
normie.
bosses.
Ooh.
They don't need to equip 10,000 microtransactions, thankfully.
Almost
you know,
done.
but
So that's a unique challenge for you, but it seems like you've got a plan of
On
kind
that
of like how to
support.
approach it
Ooh.
potentially.
Sure.
Yeah, all right. So
Congrats.
while we're on this kind of like frank discussion, is like something that people often have been mentioning.
Patch
is
notes
this
are
idea
available
that, like,
tomorrow.
maybe they love Path of Exile 1, but they're not that interested in Path of Exile 2. And they maybe feel like their money when they buy a supporter pack for Path of Exile 1
Said after
is
stream?
going
Yeah,
to
someone
a
said it was
company
after
that's developing
stream,
both games,
after
and one of those
Q&A.
being something that they're maybe not that interested in.
Right. Well, I mean, like
5 hours after
ultimately,
stream. Oh shit!
You know, like now that we're kind of in the shared model, like it's kind of
It's pouring rain.
it doesn't really. It's sort of hard for us to say, like that like money goes to one particular team or another. Like it doesn't really work like
Jonathan
that because
did.
we're all merged.
Oh.
The main thing is just to understand is that when we're in PoE 1 development
I said
mode,
it.
then PoE
Well.
1 takes precedence, and
Yep.
like any resource that it needs, like there's not going to be we can't do this because PoE
After
2
does not mean
needs
right
it.
after.
And when we're in PoE 2 development mode, it's like it's
Give
the
it to
opposite of
me
that,
right
Where
now.
like we've got
After.
that sort of going on.
Or
So there's
just
always
right
going to be
now.
people working on each game like all the
Mark,
time.
near the
but it's
beginning?
like if one's going to come out soon,
Ah.
that one is getting all the attention, and so like every resource that PoE 1 could possibly need for this expansion was moved to it, if, to make that happen.
Yeah, I got to see that firsthand walking around. It was like 95% of people working on PoE 1 right now.
Right
So-
in this moment because it's in the last week, but yeah,
Yeah.
but it's kind of variable. Like I mean, if you look at things like the, I mean, you've probably got a better idea of the breakdown. But it's like how much of the VFX team is working on PoE 1 versus 2, and like the last,
Yeah, the whole all but one is currently on PoE. All but two. I guess that doesn't really make sense. They don't know how many. So 80% of the team is on PoE 1 right now.
yeah. But it's kind of variable through the months.
But like
and stuff.
the dynamic thing is because obviously we had like 021 for PoE.
We won't bother you
2
with
that
all
we're
the
working on, and,
changes.
Like
You
yesterday,
can
I
make the
moved some
patch notes
people onto
after the
that.
stream.
Quickly got some stuff across the line. Literally 2 hours later, moved them back, and like it's like pretty hyperactive.
Right.
After
Like,
the
But
stream.
honestly, that's kind of how our leadership style is. We kind of just we're a little bit crazy.
But I also think that
Right
developing
after.
0 to 1 at the same time is kind of proof that it's possible, like to make sure that we can actually support both games at the same
Yeah,
time
I mean,
with the
releasing
level of
something-
support we need. I mean, there's those videos even that were made by the,
Yeah.
like we're getting more people. It's like we can kind of manage it. So,
I do feel like this is a positive upswing in that regard. Like it was definitely a bit of wavering there for a while. But I went from a 1-game studio to a 2-game studio.
One thing to note, and this is you say about the bosses going up and the characters, saying this,
This
like
Lovecraft
that is also
insane.
because we are, it is very, very, very useful in the same sense that certain game features get taken from one game to another. Like we see a lot of the quality of life stuff come to PoE 1. Those bosses are, animated or rigs from PoE 2 that we have like fully remodeled and
Control
reskinned. So you
F
get to
plus
reuse
winter
that entire
tide
animation
equals
set.
C
Sure,
win
you
in
gotta tweak
patch
some
notes.
stuff. But then, like,
He's
you can have one
coping.
animation be 8 different skills.
So
if you,
huge
you
cope.
put your mind to it and actually design the different outcomes.
Awesome.
So you end up with this thing where,
DM.
we're actually harvesting a lot of materials back from PoE 2 to 1. And this is how we're going to be able to get even more bosses, even more monsters, even more of that content just all the time. So
it's in ways where players can't tell though. Like it's really quite
yeah.
invisible.
You wouldn't. Some people might be able to see. Wait, I feel like I've seen that before, maybe. But you'd have to look real close and be real into it.
Yeah.
And so obviously, I know me saying it removes the allure of it, but like it is like ultra beneficial to be able to harvest all that art. And
Thank
so
you,
you could
London.
look at it as like, oh, that PoE 2 art is going on PoE 2. It's not like. All of that, I'm just constantly going. I'm going to take
it's
that,
almost like
take
the
that,
tech.
take that, take
Yeah.
that.
And the tech as well, of course, right? Like any new renderer features we're making, like all that stuff. Like you get to use it all.
So hopefully it's more of a positive thing. But I think to wrap it up, I think what it all really comes down to is people just want to know that they can feel
Locus Mind
confident
support does
that
not make
Path of Exile
auto-target
1 has a
skills
future where you
not
guys
auto-target
love it and
anymore.
giving it the attention.
Oh
that
my
The next
God.
year is going to be the year of Path of Exile, 100%, right?
I mean-
we're talking every 4 months, both games. It's every 2 months, six
so
releases.
6 releases a year.
Wild.
6 releases
What are we
a year.
talking
That's going
about?
to be
If you guys can pull that off for a year, that's going to be wild. I'm looking forward to it. But I mean, and to allay people's concerns, I guess in that regard, is you were telling me that this expansion is like this is part of a multi-season story arc that you're saying.
100%. Like with obviously you there's a whole bunch I can rant about here, but effectively, yeah. Obviously, you see Zana coming back.
have an Osu
I know,
on-screen
spoiler,
effect to
sorry,
target
but
your
it
skills.
kind of was important.
Yep.
You know, you got Zana coming back, and you've got you know. It's an additive storyline for now, and that was kind of on purpose because I wanted the end game to be still familiar. I wanted
how
people
Locust
after coming
is
back
supposed
after
to be
almost a
played.
year to still have the core of the end game be familiar, but have this additive layer on top that's cool and new and they can explore. And I didn't want to like completely rework all the mechanics. And they come people are like, I want PoE 1, finally a PoE 1 expansion. They come back and they're like, the hell is this end game? This isn't what I remember. This isn't what I was familiar with. So it was really important with this update to have a layer of familiarity across the board. And then, like, improved and reworked things and removing, obviously, with Betrayal, we've removed a lot of the
Locust is supposed to fire
constraints and
projectiles
annoyance
in a
and all of
line
that, but
from
it's
the
still
mine.
mostly just
That is the
additive stuff
drawback.
on top. Same with the end game. The
You
League
bypass
is
that with
obviously
auto target
additive to
skills,
mercenaries.
unintended mechanic.
Having
removed
that
for
there, so
sure.
there's that core Path of Exile 1 familiarity.
It is
was
possible.
important for this one. But, yes, it is like part one of a new arc of the end game storyline. Zana's back. We've got a whole new thing to explore. I'm not going to spoil too much of what exactly happens, but there's some cool shit in there. But effectively, it's like a way to think about it is we're now kind of we're going to, over obviously a relatively long time, have the era of the primordials kind of phase out and have the era of this new endgame phase in. And so, yeah, it's kind of set up for, right now it's an additive one. Maybe the
Good
next
day,
endgame one would be a
cunt.
bit more transformative. And then we'll go from there and just explore through this new storyline. So that'd be fun.
I can tell you're excited for like the future of PoE 1, which
Elder
is
wasn't meant to be
this is a
beaten at
good,
level
a good
20.
shift, I think. And you were saying you've even got like a good idea.
Not that they aren't afraid of
326 that you really
swearing.
want to.
327, yes.
Oh, sorry, yeah,
the
next one. Next one.
I do, yes. So like another thing with like this expansion, right, is like it's quite content heavy. When you do an in-game expansion in a league, it's a lot of content.
Yep.
So like, you know, you have some things have to take priority, other things have to take less priority, and so like the character stuff where we've done, you know, a decent chunk of character balance and the new systems interact with all of that. You know, there's clearly ones like, I know Settlers had like just the Giga Melee rebalance and rework, and it changed like 1,000 systems in drastic ways and all of that. But again, I wanted this time more familiarity, and then 327, we're going to go just ballistic on the characters and do as much as we possibly can to like, you know, amp that up and, I don't know, maybe fully revamp wand builds and create a whole new thing there. And now we have
Fully
to, 'cause I said
revamp
that.
wand
But-
builds? Oh.
That kind of stuff. So
Casters
yeah,
are
obviously you have
good.
ones that are more content centric, ones that are more character balance centric, and different focuses like that. So this one, content in game. We wanted our core
that's
players
later.
who've been
Fuck.
playing for 10 years, the ones that are really looking for PoE, who are like mostly playing in the end game, to really have that like expansion and new boss fights. And
That was a discussion we had yesterday, actually, was this idea that
The tide does
you
10 more
don't
damage.
necessarily have to worry about new player onboarding as much.
That's
as
like
Pokemon one now.
100% more
That's
damage.
more the focus
That's
for
a
PoE 2.
I
huge
would
buff.
definitely say that
That's
yeah,
a
for
W.
PoE 1, it's like it can easily. It's now very easy to just say, you know what, like if this isn't new player friendly, it's okay. Like we're making a game for the experienced PoE 1 players, so like we can just go ham with all that
Yeah,
stuff.
you can kind of go nuts with
You
it.
know, like if you're a new player, then PoE 2 is obviously going to be more appealing. You know, like I'd imagine they're more likely to want to go there. But of course,
10%
PoE 1 still, you know,
increase
like it's
damage.
still
Oh, just 10 increased
we're not going to
damage.
throw that away completely, but it's like
Yeah.
certainly in terms of the focus of the
That's
content,
big.
like a lot more sort of in-game stuff. You know, the pinnacles obviously and things like that. Like this is stuff that appeals to someone who actually is able to get to that content. So you know, yeah. Of course, you've still got the leagues. You know, the mercenaries. I think you were initially, when we first told you about it, you seemed a little bit like, oh yeah, I don't know how big that's going to be. But then when you actually played it, it's like, you know, it's quite a thing.
Yes, it was beyond what I expected playing it.
Right.
Because I brought up a concern after watching the reveals that I felt like there was a bit of a gap, some disparity in kind of what you revealed once I got the sense of like what was Secrets about Atlas versus Mercenaries of Trathis. I had some concerns. I was like, okay, so the Mercenaries thing seems like really awesome, and that kind of is like, by the time you get to endgame, you've kind of started to explore a lot of that. And, you know, there's still more progression beyond that, but that's like it's not necessarily like a ton of new content for that mechanic beyond that. And then you've got this new Secrets of the Atlas system, which starts at tier 14. It's very endgame pinnacle content focus. So I'm like, it feels like there's kind of a gap there between tier 1 and 14. But you mentioned yesterday after that discussion that maybe you've changed it.
I initially was like, people are coming back after a long time. They're going to come back, and yeah, some people have been playing, but like the majority of people haven't, and they're going to come back, get to that end game, and be like, all right, let's get my footing back, refigure things out. Obviously, Settlers is there, but I understand a lot of people have experienced that in the last year, so that's not going to feel too new, but there's a little bit going on there. You've obviously got Betrayal, and then yes, we have our whole like certain scarabs up, certain scarabs down kind of balance, which I will note, by the way, only a portion of which will be in the initial set of patch notes. We'll have more scarab changes coming soon.
Expansions to be announced.
People who, ideally our PoE 1 players know by now, we get a little bit feral and we just go to the end. We go till Friday of the release date for our balance changes, so not everything is there, but a lot of it is. There's all those changes, and I thought, yeah, it's all good. What we'll do is aim for the people who really want new pinnacle fights. Like, when we added the tier 17s, they were a bridge between pinnacle and uber pinnacles. So they weren't even the kind of highest tier of difficulty in the game. And you could argue these aren't either because they're pinnacles, but they are a step above the existing pinnacles. They are a bit harder. That being said, of course, just to clarify, there is a quest version of them where it is you get to tier 14s and you will find them deterministically and get through all three of them. Just for the narrative, you get to explore all that. They're easier balance. And then you get into farm mode where you get the true rewards and the true, difficulty test. But as you pointed out, I thought that'd be all right, and then you did raise you're like, but what about between tier 1 and 14? It's not going to feel very new, and it was like,
yeah, where's the content?
Yeah, fair enough. So yeah, we made some changes, of course, and as much as now in the live stream it says we're introducing it at high tier maps, that is where the story is introduced, so to speak. But we're now adding a bunch of trickled stuff beforehand, all the way from like tier 3 maps, where you're now you're finding those memory influenced maps, the influenced by the originator, as it said. You're getting the memory strand items, which are very useful for actually finding good item drops and crafting as you're going through the end game. And so you're getting that all the way through. And then, once you get to the higher tier maps is when you get into the actual pinnacle storyline with the new 3 pinnacle bosses. Look, straight up, it was just like what we thought was good oversight, but like this is always what happens. I think even Jonathan mentioned earlier is that often, when we have these podcasts and interviews, it's just like half the time we end up discussing stuff that we're then going to go and change the day after or the day of, and that's exactly what
I feel like something always
doing.
comes out of the Q&A. You usually do some sort of live development during these, which I love.
mean, there's so much that like to not and happening so rapidly and coming together very much, all together at the end. It's impossible to really have your eye on everything and not miss like some things. Even we often miss things, and then it goes live, and then we address it then as well, and stuff like that, right? It's just like very, very, very crazy. But again, that's I kind of think that's the magic to it, and what allows us to do so much in so little time. But it is also the thing as well that's going to result in the 6 expansions.
How long left on the QA? I want patch.
The combined game.
QA is typically pretty long.
So now, like the state of it looks like veteran players are going
most
to be
of the time
exploring the mercenaries as they're leveling up. They're going to be going into the end game.
How
and
long is
kitting
the
out,
QA normally?
It's
like 2
hours.
hours.
Gearing them up, swapping them around, starting to interact with memory packs of enemies that drop memory influenced maps, that drop memory influenced items that they can craft. Which I'm excited about that as like a progression, that crafting system with the boosted craft. And that was you mentioned like a way of kind of getting the tiering system into Path of Exile 1.
The initial idea there was like, how can we get the tier 2, tier 3, tier 4, tier 5 item drops from PoE 2 system into PoE 1? And it was like, well, why don't we just do it in the new in-game system? And then we're like, well, we can have more granularity. It can go all the way from 1 to 100. There's not really much point not. And so you're finding better items. Like every time you pick up these items, it could have a set of full tier 1 modifiers. So that was the initial goal. And then, it was like, well, may as well. Like, the crafting orbs can just consume it as well. Now it's worth getting into that specifically. The basic crafting orbs all consume it. And right now, like, we don't have fossils and harvest and
Wintertide
stuff to
brand
it, but it is our
of the
intention to
chicken.
implement that. But it's a
cool.
bit scary. There's some
100%
there's some
real
OP
info.
there for sure.
Oh, that's
but
a-
I
that's a
really
pretty
like
good
all those systems
quality
interacting and
Yes,
interweaving.
please.
Now, what we're finding right now is that you actually do that crafting first,
Okay,
and
that's-
then
it's
you
getting
consume the
toxic.
memory strands for
Goddamn.
like the final exalts and final applications.
Surely it'll
And
be
that is something
fine.
that is happening internally, and you're getting some pretty insane outcomes there to guarantee like a
Yeah.
T1 mod on your final exalts and stuff like that. But yeah, if we were to do it the other way around, you'd probably end up having it be very much using all those systems. So before we turn that on, obviously we're going to review every single thing and make sure we're definitely happy with everything, because it is a very complicated web of craziness. But
Actually, that was a question I was wanting to ask. Was like, how do you even make new crafting
That's some funny
systems
shit,
for PoE1 at this
goddamn.
point? Like with all the various intricate, do you just kind of like make it and
You just
cross
have
your
to.
fingers?
You just have to
Send
effectively
it.
just take the chance and just come up with what you can do. Because if you worried about literally everything, you'd never make anything.
Yeah.
So you have to on some level.
But it's
just,
the same with uniques. It's the
Yeah,
same
yeah.
with new character systems. There's so many variables that you kind of just like, here's a thing.
let's see what happens.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yes, correct. Exactly.
that's kind of broken.
Effectively.
Great.
It's fun though. It's just fun.
So you've got this progression system now, which sounds phenomenal. That sounds like a really nice improvement to just to like, while we're exploring the various changes you've done to things like the massive overhaul to Betrayal, for example, and like the new Scarabs, those new systems, the integration of like the previous content that's gone core. And then you get to tier 14, and then it's like new story kicks in with the Secrets of the Atlas, the memory system. And that uses the kind of like the idea of those memory threads.
Yeah, we had what was memories before.
Yeah.
So that was like there was Alva's memory and all of that, and they had kind of different things. You couldn't juice them, but some of them gave pretty specific rewards, and a bunch of them were worth absolutely
the
nothing.
lack of juicing kind of meant that they didn't really
Yeah.
have a good place in the end game, though.
Yeah, there was only a couple that were
So,
kind of worthwhile.
we were like, we didn't really give that system justice, so like let's kind of use that as the baseline for the new memory threads, except we 100% allow full juicing.
Yep.
And make them more unique, have the alter mods at the end of each run, and then have the new influence mechanic. And then what we did is we took all those memories, and we were like, I think it was Octavian actually who suggested it, was like,
Good job.
put all those on Kirak. And so all the Kirak missions that can
Kirak
now be
buff.
offered, since Kirak also couldn't be
The new
juiced,
Hellmon
Kirak
Discord.
missions now can give you all of the things that appeared on those memories before, which gives him a unique thing that he didn't have before as well, and it can be more valued farming that.
good.
So
Oh, interesting.
2 birds, 1 stone.
So that's what it
good
does?
suggestion.
Thanks, Octavian.
And but yeah, effectively those, and then we're like,
So this is
those
what it,
memory strands. We don't want it to just be I'm doing normal
What it
mapping, normal
does.
mapping,
That's pretty
normal mapping.
cool.
Then you find the memory, We've already tripped up now. And this is the thing we were talking about yesterday with all the terminology.
Memory threads versus
the
memory
threads,
strands.
the memory threads. Again, once you're playing, it's a bit more clear. But yeah, we've got a bit of synonym thesaurus issues going on. You're doing the memory threads, and it's like, well, we want to be able to do that experience without just having to go, okay, I don't want to have to run a bunch of maps, get a thread, have some fun, and then I'm back to just regular
Yeah.
things. So we're like, well, once you finish the storyline, I won't explain exactly how that concludes because it's a big one. What those maps that you can find on that thread now will start dropping but it's T16s
Yep.
and more frequency, and then but they will be rolling with Tier 17 mod pool, and we're kind of calling those T16.5s because they are very close to T17s, and it's kind of honestly I would say in some cases if you get the right memory skills better than T17s,
Good.
which I know has been a huge concern,
Yep.
and I agree with
Better
that,
than
and I am
Tier
finally
17s.
hopefully we can not have just the age of T17s that can't self-sustain and you have to trade for, and a lot of frustration there. That's the
Excellent.
That's the hope. If
Wow.
it doesn't fully solve it, obviously it's still the intention to.
Well,
so we will.
Well, let's talk about the problem
elaborate.
with tier 17s then.
You can
so
change
like
it from red
obviously
to green.
there's a few issues going on there. It seems like that you had this like very varied end game, tons of different maps and everything, and then kind of narrow that down to 4 maps instead. And obviously it was presenting problems for build diversity as
Well,
well.
it was also a clash because it was like those were meant to be the bossing way to get to the Ubers.
Yeah.
And it ended up being the juicing. And so then
Yeah.
you have a kind of economy clash between people who want to farm bosses and people who want to juice. And it was like, okay, well, they were intended to be the boss way. Whoops. But you know, they were still kind of fun for both axes, you know, in some regard, minus a few little bits and pieces. Like, obviously, we had to do some changes to the mods, how they generated. Like, you know, we certainly had some hiccups with that one the first time around. But yeah, it was then all of a sudden now T16s are dead, you know?
Yeah.
So the hope here, bring them back. You can farm the map you want as with the originator influence on it, I believe is what the text said, or you know, what I call memory influence or Zana influence, you know, all of these things, whatever. They're influenced with a bunch of red and blue stuff. You get the pedals, you get the skills, but you get the div card you want, you get the farm the layout you want, you get to do the boss you want.
I can't hear the
stuff.
stuff.
Deal with,
so,
you know.
Can you say somewhat definitively if like juicing is going to be happening in tier 16s again, or is it still going to be tier 17s a bit? Not sure.
I currently, as far as I can tell, it should be in the 16s, but I didn't want to make it that the 17s are just garbage.
Yeah.
So
you haven't taken a hard stance
I think
on it, yeah.
I think especially with the right memory influence skills appearing, which you do have to take a bit of a gamble for, and sometimes you get really good ones and sometimes you get okay ones. That's part of the fun when you get it and you're like, oh yes, I got the epic one that revives monsters and I get all the loot twice. And then when you get that kind of thing, it's going to be like, okay, this is just 100% better. Like, how was it not? And then of course multiply that with all the all flames and you know, there's going to be some madness occurring. Not Necropolis tier madness, but there will be madness. We have learnt from that a bit. Don't you worry about that. That was out of control on a level unprecedented. But you know, still new tiers of madness.
There's a question from chat about Atlas passive skill tree and with it expanding, like with all these new things being added to it. Is that something you consider as to like how many points you end up getting and those decisions like between things?
I like the amount of points you get and the amount you can invest in a given tree loadout. I think that is correct.
Still feels right.
Like we do remove a little bit of nodes and we have added some, but I wouldn't like we've added new ways to juice via the influence. We've added new ways to add more things to the all flames and stuff like that, and there's new multiplicative things going on there. I wouldn't also then want to just be like, here's another plus 20% on the tree as well. I think that choice matters. I like that choice matters, and I think you should have to give up something to get something of the new thing, or have one of your loadouts focus on that and two of the others focus on something else. So
something else that sounds like it's going to help is you mentioned to me this idea that you might be getting
crackers and
more
cheese
access
type
to the content
snack
from the investment nodes that you're taking anyway via scarabs, right?
If you're coming back,
yeah, true. I mean, it was more of a SSF feature, but it will work for everyone. But both the map device where you apply like Breach League and a bunch of the nodes on the Atlas tree that are like, you know, chance to have breaches in your maps, both also now increase the chance of you getting scarabs of that league's type. Which is kind of how you know PoE 2 did it as well with their leagues, where you know
content to get
you get expedition to get more expeditions.
Great.
It's the same thing here. We just wanted to push that a bit more, with a little bit more agency and influence the scarabs you're getting. That way, you're getting more of the ones you want, because there are a lot of scarabs, of course, and you can block a decent chunk of them, and you can invest in some others. And we're just like more agency is better here, like straight up. So may as well, and it just simply adds more value to the map device craft. So why not?
All right. I know we're jumping around topics a lot here, but
I didn't say chips and dip. I want crackers and cheese.
On the mercenary topic, so you've designed these guys to be so good that everyone's going to want to use one, right? And that's like the right way. So
it has to be crackers and cheese.
But it does raise the question as to you need to make sure that they're not abrasive to use, that they're fun to use, that there's not necessarily problems where you feel like, oh, I have to
go
use
out
them.
And get some
so how
crackers
do you go about
and
making
cheese.
sure that that's the case for these guys?
I mean, obviously them increasing the difficulty, like, you know, is a thing that says maybe you don't want to necessarily, you know, maybe they're not pulling their weight on a boss fight, you know, and stuff like that, making it actually harder because of the
or
life.
If you don't have the right mercenary,
you know, or if you don't have the right mercenary, you don't have the right gear on them. These are factors. However, generally they should be fun to have with you. You should want to engage with it. That is the league. If you're not playing in the league, or you don't want to engage with the league as much, you still got the end game, you still got betrayal, you still got, you know, the settlers, all that stuff is all still there. The character balance changes, everything's still there. It's just, you know, ideally you'd want to engage with the mercenaries. They are generally more beneficial than not. You would have to really over level them and not be upgrading them for them to start being kind of useless.
But the item and combat mechanic with them by itself is also like, even if you're not hiring a mercenary, there's still like, you know, there's a source of items there. There's new things like mechanics that they've got going on with that. So like even that part is a thing in itself.
Well, something I didn't realize from watching it and then even playing for a while was that, and I think the UI is getting improved by launch for this, but the when they have like the currency pocket, when you don't actually pick a currency from that, they give you all the currency from that window.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like so. It was a bit juicier than I thought it was actually. It kind of caught me by surprise.
Yeah. Why not? But it was interesting creating a, there's not many leagues where you get one reward.
Yeah.
Like, and obviously not the currency pouch, but you
pick a item.
Picking a single piece of gear.
Yep.
And so we had to really think like, okay, I mean, you can see it, so you already get a pick from all the different slots. But it was like, how do we make sure that their gear is comparable to what a player would have, which is kind of you're identifying many and picking the best, and you're crafting a thing, and so it's always better than average. And so we had to really think about what their gear should and what their items should look like, to be comparable to something you would actually want or have. So
and you find a person who
it's
drops a
rare to
mirror
have a league where you
for-
actually only just get one item. Like even Ultimatum, sure you get one in many rounds in a row, so you still get up to 10, whereas this is just actually one.
So you have to make sure it's good, right?
Yeah, and that was actually kind of complicated to do, but there's some pretty powerful stuff you can get from that. I mean, obviously the uniques are relatively easy to put in, but they do affect the mercenaries in some pretty crazy ways. But the rare items and stuff like that, yeah, it was a little bit complicated to actually get that to feel good.
Yeah.
Such that you feel
22K hours and
I
still
actually
haven't
want to
dropped
take
one.
that as opposed to just always taking the currency.
Is-
But if you want to
That's
do
a
that,
lot
go
of
ahead as well.
hours.
Was there any kind of, just out of curiosity, was there any kind of thought on like as to what sort of items or what sort of mods they roll on their items then? Since they're like they are kind of specific builds.
Yeah, kind of. It is relative to the build more so, yes.
Yeah.
Like there are like 30-something different archetypes. So we talked about like the Striker and I can't remember the names of Eruptor and stuff, but there are like 30-something of them. And, there's a Chaos Mage and there's ones with curses and ones with auras and ones with... I'm obviously listing all the utility stuff because I know that it's the aura bots of Trathus really is probably how a lot of people are going to see it.
No aura, exiled.
But actually, there's a lot of custom skills in there. They're not entirely player skills.
Yeah,
I
that's
know we
wild.
touched on the Trathus skills, but we only showed this. I feel there's maybe around 16 of them. Some of them
And
are
you
cool.
can get those, right?
They can just be in their little pouch. And you can
just take one.
you can pick them, and when if you
Wow.
defeat them, they drop it, and you get it, and it's a new. So it's kind of like a transfigured gem in a way, but it's a Trathan gem, and it's just so that's a way of delivering a bunch of new skills. And you have
That's
you
really
have like
cool.
Blood Storm Call, which is like physical that creates a blood dot. So you maybe want to add, so there might be some builds that want to do that. There's like new spectral shield throws and a whole bunch of different things. We saw the siege
The new
ballista in
spectral
this
shield
live
throw
stream,
looks
but there's
really
there's
good.
certainly a whole bunch of them. I know there's a kind of incinerate based blast ray. Blast rain was it? Yeah, like arrow comes down, does a wave of almost like an incinerate wave out of it and stuff like that. So like
Had some fun with that.
spoiling a bunch of them, but it's only 4 or so. But yeah, there's heaps of different skills there, which is pretty cool. But then they also just have like kind of high cooldown and different passive skills and stuff like that as well. So like there's a lot of
Probably
stuff
should
to
have put
consider.
more of those in the video, honestly.
Yeah,
'Cause,
possibly. Yeah, probably. Yeah. And there's probably some surprise and
Spoiled.
cool stuff for people to find.
well,
It's all right. It was a 42-minute presentation.
Yeah.
Like it's all right. Give a taste. Let people find a lot of cool stuff on live. So,
In terms of making them fun to like manage and hire and things like that, if you'd asked me before playing it, I would have said like, oh yeah, you want to be able to like spend some sort of passives on them or something like that. But then actually after playing it, I was like, oh, it's kind of good that you didn't go to that level because then there's no lock-in with them. You can change between them easily.
Would have
and-
been a bit annoying, I think.
Yeah, and a
Wanted,
bit too much tedious upkeep.
low micromanagement on this. So like doing
Yeah.
the gear, but you won't have to do that too often.
Thank the gods.
They don't level up. They don't have like they have a passive tree behind the scenes.
Less
you just don't
TDM.
get to see it
That's
or
it,
engage
yeah.
with it.
That's
I
Like,
wasn't actually sure. Was that
I mean,
when
you're
it's
stupid,
actually
man.
allocating individual nodes?
no,
'Cause I assumed
no,
not. I
they
assumed
have
not.
they have a
I assumed
Trathan
not.
passive tree.
Okay.
Secret proprietary.
Yeah.
Right,
I mean,
right.
they gain stats as they
Yeah.
as they level up, and it's kind of relative to the archetype, and there's some stuff going on. But you don't need to care about that. It's just as far as you know, they're higher level. They've made somewhat intelligent decisions about their passive points and whatnot, and they're pretty good. Of course,
Pretty good.
some are better than others. Some will be good for your build. Much like you will have, here's the meta ascendancies for a league. Probably those, each meta ascendancy then has the meta mercenary for the league, and so on.
Did
and so
one last
Yeah,
time?
maybe
I
just
didn't
your
do
builds
yeah,
line
it's
more.
going to be pretty
Oh,
crazy, I suspect, in
no.
the end. There's like as much as it's pretty simple to just arrange them, there's going to be a lot of little minor complexities.
That's poor path of building, guys.
I was going to say, like, are they going to have to implement some interesting...
They're definitely going to be a part of your build, so it's got to go in there. Yeah.
100%.
They can give you auras and various other buffing skills. I had a Templar that had like an aura, and he had the Smite with the lightning aura.
Your meta build, then for that you need your 3 meta mercenaries, and then your meta animate
God,
guardian, and then you've got
he's toxic.
Oh my god, too many. I mean, at least a lot more items will be getting put to use.
Every
so that's
cast.
good.
I'll be curious to see how the Animate Guardian feels, because I don't know. Like,
that's
that
a
one
lot
has
of
obviously the
damage.
skill gem cost as well, potentially
What
like
the
supports
fuck?
and things
Yeah,
like that.
of course. But
So that's obviously a bit
What?
more attacks, whereas these guys are just a free add-on on top. They don't cost you anything.
Oh,
except for gold.
shit.
Which was you intentionally didn't go for an upkeep cost for them.
That's
which I
toxic.
yeah. I mean, you already earned there. You still got to pay them a little bit, but you defeated them. You don't need to pay them by the hour anymore.
There's a gold cost if they die, which I found I had a couple die early on, but then
He's
they were
toxic.
mostly, especially if I picked good ones, they were staying alive.
Oh
like
my
I had one
God.
guy that was ridiculously tanky, and then some of them had like 4k life, and this guy had like vitality and enduring cry and kind of like a fizz aura and immortal call and things like that. I'm like, oh yeah, these guys are kind of better than me.
That's true. Yeah, often you might find yourself aspiring to become more like your mercenary.
Yes.
But look, these are trained fighters from a ruthless place in Trathus, and they've come here, and they're like, "What are all you weaklings doing?" And so,
it was quite confronting when I was like doing my usual running through mud flats with my ranger in a Hessian sackcloth clothing, and then I run into literally the ranger one, and they're like wearing Giga MTXs, and they got like all these different supported skills, and they're like comboing them together, and I'm like, what?
It's giving you something to aspire to.
Yes.
It's this is what I can become. And it's, whoops.
I felt really good when I fired them later.
Yeah, look, remember they came here of their own choice. They haven't been exiled here as a criminal left to rot on a beach.
I have to say, they kind of feel like suckers. So they've got this honor code system, right? That says that if a challenger comes and challenges them, they have to wager literally one of the pieces of clothing they're wearing, of the challenger's choosing, and the challenger doesn't have to put up anything. Like, you don't have to wager anything of yourself. Like, I feel like in a previous Path of Exile, we might have be like, oh yeah, you have to gamble your item.
But if you remove the game mechanic from the equation and you go, okay, let's say you and I have a duel and I get to take your shoes,
it already
and
automatically
my sacrifice is
back.
I have to die. I don't think that's a fair trade. Now,
but this is in a world where you can revive.
Yeah, but they don't know that.
Okay, fair enough. Good
and
point.
honestly, if I have to go your shoes versus my 15% experience, I don't know if I'm gonna.
Pretty nice boots.
Yeah, sure, but that's part of my level I just lost. So I don't know if I'll take that trade.
I'm not home yet.
You got me there. That's a good point. We'll get some more questions about the mercenaries there. Do mercenaries count as minions? Has been asked.
Oh, I said 15%, and I realised that is not correct.
Oh, what was the?
I'm just making up numbers.
Oh,
No. Ignore me.
Yeah.
I know that's the wrong number.
No. What have you done? That's going to be quoted.
I just quickly
I'm
glanced
sure
at chat.
mobile
I'm like,
lets you
oh,
know.
geez, I said I just made something up on the spot in the heat of the moment.
I'm actually not sure. Does
The
it?
question was, do mercenaries count as minions for the purpose of various minion-based things?
He's fish.
They don't count as a semantic minion for minion damage and all of that. But I know, for example, all the how there's bosses and they have certain skills because they're less avoidable. They deal less damage to your minions. Oh, yeah. They also count.
Just making up numbers. Oh.
They also get that damage reduction from those things
What the fuck?
they're not going. There's an AOE here. I'm getting out of it, and they're going to jump back in like you are.
My
They're
girlfriend's
just gonna suck the
toxic.
damage, and so we've made it so obviously they don't take as much damage from those unavoidable attacks, so to speak, and much like how your minions do and whatnot. But again, they are pretty tanky. So,
But it's true.
On top of that,
on that same spirit of live improvements happening.
Pretty
as
good.
we're talking about it. It's like yesterday I was asking kind of, can you heal them with like the minion flask or something like that to heal them in between combats? And later I got a message saying that you guys have changed it so that they heal out of combat now.
Yeah, it was taken from the it's something I actually really like that the minions do in PoE 2, where when there's some downtime, they kind of regenerate back to full life. So that change was made yesterday actually, and so now the mercenary, you don't have that thing where you have to give it some life regen, and explored a few different options, but it was just like, you know what, Just like if there's a little bit of downtime, or if, it's more if they haven't lost life in the last some amount of time, they just whoop back to full life. So
Love it.
You know,
It's just good quality of life. Yeah.
you don't just have them sitting at 10% life, and you're like, what am I supposed to do here? Yeah.
So they can be brought into pinnacle content is one of the other questions I'm saying.
Yeah. Anywhere, everywhere in the game.
No restrictions on that.
Yep.
Nice, cool. And people seemingly from the question, based on the questions, don't believe that you can have like a 6-person party and have 6 mercenaries. That you wouldn't allow that. That's too crazy. I mean, it is too crazy, but you do allow that, right?
We do.
Yeah, we do.
That's the thing. Okay.
I mean, you know, it's a lot. It's a lot of auras. But you know, I'm very much looking forward to playing my. Everyone knows I play my support characters, and you know, you'd expect, you're a support character, so you can get a DPS merc now and not have to play with your friends. But I'm thinking, well, hold on, I can be a support character and have a support mercenary and support my friends even more. So like,
Of
you know,
course.
it's all win.
That sounds about you. Perfect. Yeah, I mean, while leveling, I certainly felt like the DPS ones were viable if I was playing more of a supportive role, or if I was like struggling in that regard. They did seem like they were actually able to kill things. Is that
100%.
something that can happen in endgame though? Like that seems hard to believe.
I mean, look, at the end of the day, you can give them Headhunter, you can give them all of that stuff, and they take the damage, they scale it. Like, the only thing they don't have is, you know, your skill, which could be bad, and thus they could be better than you, or you could be very good, and in which case, you know, I'm just saying, like, they are still a computer.
They
right?
could
They
have
are still at the end of
Wintertide
the day doing
brain.
that, so they may not make the smartest decisions that you agree with.
There's
Like,
like custom AI
stop.
skill,
there
right?
is 100%, and
So they're a bit above the 50 percentile of players.
yeah,
is
they
that-
might
is
be.
what you're
Yeah,
saying?
I'd say around 55% just percentile average. You know,
Better than half you.
They can, computers can be good. So, but at the end of the day, you know, when you're like, you know, giga zooming and obliterating everything before it can even appear on your screen entirely. You know, there's a question of how much use can they really be, and that's where I come in and say, look, the floor is still they're half a party member worth of loot increase, and they are, you know, whatever auras and all of that. So you might pivot from more. You definitely want, like, DPS ones are real good all the way through, but once you again become the power of 1,000 gods, like,
Yeah, there's a certain point where
you know,
it's
there's
just
only so
naturally-
much you can do. Now, that being said, if you do want to play a more passive character and you want them to just go wild, like, they're pretty strong. There is, of course, the thing where if you miscalculate that, you go into your pinnacle relying on them to kill it, and you miss the mark and they die. It's not like you're bringing them back in that area.
they only have one
so
portal.
now you're like, oh, damn it. I'm not sure what to do now, and you've got to do it the hard way. So, but yes, much like the new Change the Animate Guardian, if they die, they don't come back into that area.
Sounds like a good way of
only
doing it, yeah.
sequential instances, yeah.
Much better than the losing gear and all that,
Yeah,
all that drama.
we went through all that. I even had the like, maybe in Ruthless they should lose an item, or maybe, you know, I was like, is that a thing? I was like, oh, no, look, it's either right or wrong. Let's just go with what we know is right, what people will like, and what is not going to just cause a bunch of unnecessary. Oh my god, now I got to do this again, and something unpredictable happens, or some monster skill is like particularly imbalanced, and it's like, oh my god, it just lost so much currency, and like, so all good.
Sounds great. Awesome.
What about? Does that mean they're going to be changing Animate Guardian on Dev?
Phenomenal, thank you. Gold goes core.
The potential
which,
of
obviously
that
as an experiment
is
feels like a
possible.
success. Then, Jonathan, I think you feel like you can speak to that.
I mean, sure.
Gold as a
I
core feature of the game.
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely happy with where God, like, you know, with how God improves things. I mean, you know, we originally did it as a way to reduce the number of things that monsters can drop while still having it so that they feel like they drop things.
Yeah, like culling the
yeah,
net
yeah. But
stuff.
I mean, I honestly, like, I think it's been a straight up improvement, and obviously it's really good to be able to work with the you know, the new the trade the currency market and stuff like that. Like, I think that stuff, like, you know, I don't know that there'd be another way to do that as successfully as the way that works. So yeah, like, I think that's worked well, and it's funny because you know, like, on the surface, you're like, oh, every game's got gold. But the funny thing about it is that in most games, gold is a lot of games have like bound items, and then gold is the only thing you can trade. In our game, you've got unbound items, and gold is the only thing you can't trade, and that's why it sort of works as that kind of trading kind of thing. So I think the way we've done it, like, it works well, and I definitely want to keep it. Like, it's got a definite place for sure, and yeah, like, we may be able to expand its use as well more in the future potentially. Like, right now, it's not used for like shops or anything like that. Like, you know, it's used for gambling, but it's not used for the regular shops. And like, there were some issues around that, but we might change that one day. Sort of hard to say, but you know, yeah, I think it's definitely it's good.
Huh.
Yeah,
Okay,
okay.
interesting.
And that means obviously currency exchange is staying core and things like that. It looks like shipments were staying core, and that's one that I see is like mixed
Still no
opinions. Some
patch
people love
notes.
it.
Just came home
You
from
know,
walking dog.
it's
Yeah,
passive
still no
income.
patch notes. We're still in the QA.
And, but it's also like an obligation. You know, it's a thing you got to check in on. It's a busy work to an extent.
We did
There
some
was a
changes
Wintertide
we
one,
did
true.
slow down. We made them take
There
longer.
was a big Wintertide
proportionally,
one.
In some cases, increase
Shit.
the rewards. The intention there being, of course,
We found
that
it.
way you have to deal with it
Oh my
less.
god.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not the focus of the league.
Wait,
Yeah,
we
yeah,
gotta.
it's not the
we don't want it
focus,
to be
so-
overtaking what you're doing all the time.
Yeah. And look, and
We
it
can't
these things to
stand
be a bit
Jonathan
divisive.
talking.
100%.
Where's
Some
Chris?
people love it, some people don't, and that's great. That's
Look
everything
at
in PoE,
this.
and that's everything we add. And you can choose to
Wintertide
do it. You can choose
buffs.
not to do it.
Let's go.
Maybe you choose to just do the crops and do the shipments and not worry about all the other stuff to do with it. Maybe you just use
It's
the map
real,
runners
told
and
you.
put whatever gold investment into that.
It's real. Let's
you know,
fucking go.
There will be other ways to spend gold in
The
the future.
chicken
Maybe
threads,
maybe
Jim.
because you don't want to deal with them, you build up an excess, and then all of a sudden we add the
God
gambling
damn.
strongbox from PoE 2 or something like that to sink the rest.
Yes,
Who knows?
dude.
Yeah, we'll see.
Do it so good.
It's a fun strongbox, but
That is a good one.
that will come to PoE 1, I promise you.
100%.
So, but there'll be ways to do it. But we'll feel it out and see how much gold people are getting relative to losing as well a bit, and then see. But the intention here is that if you're
Get
just
it by
feeling
holding all
annoying
the
and how much you have
chickens
to
and
deal
King's
with it,
March
then,
inside
we've
the
missed
house.
mark and
God
we'll probably
damn.
even,
Rog is
adjust
gonna
things
be
a bit further as
pissed.
well. But again, like everything, it's up to you, your agency, your choice. Like
You touched on an interesting point because I feel like before it wasn't optional because it was there and it was free stuff. So why wouldn't you do it? But now you're actually, both in terms of gold, but also your passive application. Like, are you actually even investing in having those ores appear?
Pretty sure the
versus something
chickens will
else?
do
So
more
it's not
DPS.
necessarily just like a free thing on
Okay.
top that you're obligated to do. It's now a more conscious decision.
I
right?
could see it feeling mandatory, and if it does feel mandatory, then we miss the mark.
That would be so
bit,
cool
for
if they
sure.
add like a hidden.
I don't want it to
a
feel
hidden
so
feature.
mandatory, but that being said, I also wouldn't want it to feel
Where
so
if you do
terrible
get
that
all
you
the
never want to
chickens
engage with it. So
in
there's
the
always
house,
a
they'd actually
fine line
drop
to hit,
something.
and
But there's stuff you can only get from there, so there's always going to be that
yeah,
element.
yeah, yeah, for
Like,
sure. If
yeah.
you want to get the
Am I the
tactics
only
and
one who did
rune
this in
graphs and
King's
some of those
March?
rune
I
graphs,
never
A lot
did
of
it.
them are like pretty crazy off-build stuff, and there's a good set of like chase ones in there, and there's some pretty crazy stuff in there to get. But I think it's a better system. I like the idea that now Settlers is giving two different passive tree mechanics that can coexist as the
Patches, runes,
rewards, aside from obviously recombinating and map running and stuff. But as opposed to like just the freaking insane enchants that you were getting on your weapons
So
before.
the
with,
enchants
like-
are gone then. This
Yeah.
replaces that, yeah.
Yeah.
Which I think most
They
people
were
expected.
they were a little bit much on the power creep axis. It was kind of just a bit crazy, but I wouldn't say that we won't see some sort of weapon enchant system back in the
Too
future.
busy replacing my
Um,
mentally challenged
a bit more
servers.
regulated and stuff like
Or
that.
mappers, because they kept dying.
There's room for that. There's design space for that. But we never know what form. But I like that Settlers is where you go to get your alternate passive tree stuff. I think for changing masteries and changing nodes, I like that as the the reward from it.
It was a pretty funny reveal of the live reveal of the recombination changes because everyone was like, "Oh no, you did it! You got rid of the old one and replaced it with this." But
I
then
know,
obviously the old one's still there.
We're here seeing all of the L's, and then I'm like, "Don't worry, they'll come back. They'll come back.
Wait.
It's all right."
It was very entertaining from our perspective.
So that's all right. And then all of a sudden, L's www saved. I love it. I very
feel like that
thoroughly
was
enjoy
intentional,
watching
but,
chat. Yeah.
So you kept the
just
old
save
version
so
of
much
recombination.
gold
Is that changed or nerfed in
from
any way, or is
upgrading
it just as
tiers.
it was?
The old way, I can't speak to that with an absolute certainty, and I would have to talk
It's like
to
what, 300k gold or
one of the
something?
main designers dealing with that. But I did say
Or
like we should
more?
pretty much keep it the same.
Yeah.
And if there is a change, it needs to be like very much justified. It's not like
Yeah. So
people like it for a reason. Like keeping it alongside the other one and then gutting it is obviously not
Yeah.
not the
And
play. You may
constantly
as well
buying
have
higher
not
tier
kept it at that
workers.
point. So yeah, it was certainly the intention that we keep it. It's still a
We
favorite.
wasted to pay
if
a
anything, I would
mercenary.
be okay with making things more expensive. So it's a little bit harder to use at the top end when you're doing like the very. I think that is maybe the thing we concluded when you're interacting with a lot of the really special modifiers that you normally can't get on items. We're making it a bit more expensive. But I don't think that was a huge constraint anyway,
not a
unless you
barrier
were
for the people doing
unless
it
you were going
usually.
to it. Yeah. Sure. So, I would prefer to do something like that instead of nerfing the power of it at this point.
Anyone volunteering to be my
And
free
I'm like
mercenary?
99% sure we didn't
If you
nerf
allow
the
me
actual
to use
functionality of
Wintertime
it,
brand, I
but
will. Yes.
I'll verify, and if
Yeah,
it is the
yeah.
case, I will let the community know afterwards.
Okay. On the topic of gold,
He's the true mapper.
An ongoing
I'm
thing
his
has
merc.
been that gold is very present from the core Atlas mechanics and certain things, but other things just literally don't drop it. You do Blight or whatever and you just don't get gold, or, Sanctum just doesn't get gold. That's obviously a separate topic, but is this something that has been normalized across the game? Do you want players to be in a position where they can't use it?
We are making some adjustments. So, when we did that, obviously we went through the entire game, of which there is a lot, and specifically we're like, do this, too much gold, lower, and we had penalties and increases all over the place, and a bunch of stuff was too low. Some stuff is, and I wouldn't say it's too high. It was actually probably relatively.
If they allow us to use our MTX
nice,
on mercs, that would be top.
There was just a bunch of stuff that's just dead, and it is our intention for that to not be the case. So we do want to increase those. I don't know how much they'll necessarily increase by.
I mean, if there's a merc in every zone in
that is on our
campaign,
radar 100%.
could be big for looting their items.
Great, because
Heist is a good example.
Yeah, I think the most compelling argument I heard in favor of making sure that those had access to gold was for the player who wanted to focus on just that. They just wanted to heist.
100%.
They can't currency exchange, right? That's the biggest problem.
100%. It isn't. It is just like let's say it is already a relatively divisive league, and then also the gold sucks. It's easy to perceive that as dead. So yeah. It look, there are some things where we maybe make an intentional decision because they are like too rewarding to be like it's not a place you're going to get a lot of gold, Sanctum, and then when we're like, okay, which we'll make some changes too, but then you have the things like heist, where I would say it isn't that regard, and it's just like, why is the gold bad here? And it's like, look, we just missed the mark. So
yeah. Well, I guess since we brought it up, the Anti-Sanctum Alliance has been constantly messaging me, asking about, whether Sanctum's going to see any changes in terms of just kind of how much raw currency it prints early league for like a low investment for like really knowledgeable players, giving them such a massive advantage over less ones. Obviously, that's always the case, but it seems to a severe magnitude.
GG will sell you new mercenary
I don't have the exact
MTX.
changes because they're literally, we're like going to go
that's
today
probably more
Monday.
likely.
But like, which I know it seems crazy. So they're not like massive grand rework, but at least for now we're certainly going to give it less of the edge it has.
It's possible, but if they allow you to add MTX and mercenaries, they would definitely allow you to use your own MTX on mercenaries.
In terms of
because that would be
like a grander
insane.
Future, like I would like to shift away from it just being pure regular currency and move into something where it has its own item and own reward mechanic that has some sort of interaction with something. Like almost every league has something special, and that one is just like, obviously it's got a relic meta system, but it's just like, here's some uniques, here's a different style of gameplay, but just like, here's all the currency. Then it becomes very quantifiably better or worse than just like core game. And obviously very, very early, it's very strong. And then, maybe juicing catches up, but then, it obviously gets a little bit crazy. And different axes, you get a lot more uniques, a lot more different things. But it's still, it's just that there's very easily quantifiable thing where it's like a very good strategy if you know what you're doing, especially very early on, as you're saying. But it needs its own thing. It 100% needs its own thing. So, but at least for now, it doesn't have to be as good as it is for how easy it is to do so. So we'll make some changes. I just don't know the exact specifics. And as a result, they won't be in the patch notes today. It will be in another coming soon section.
Oh, shit.
Because it is, yes.
Great.
I mean, again, I'm not.
So is the game plan go vicious for Mage Blood with the new betrayal?
We have another
week before. It's like, what are we going to do? Sit around and twiddle your thumbs?
Exactly.
Sounds
if
good.
If it's still similar, that honestly might be one of the better options.
Big changes to Betrayal, which look phenomenal. That's obviously like a big overhaul for that, and something that was really long.
Now it almost seems like if you're not doing Gravicious, you're throwing, because you can still do Katarina.
Giving a similar treatment. I hear a lot of feedback about like quality of life around Bestiary, for example, being not where people want it.
But like
that is on our radar.
There's now affecting mercenaries instead of you.
Improving the quality of life there is
that would be interesting.
A little bit annoying. Maybe more than a little bit. But like talking about like the Sanctum reward as an example.
No research super good for it. Yeah.
There's some others, like I'd love to give, Blight a bit of an overhaul. I'd love to, do something with Delve. It's just all those, there's probably more that once I actually look at the full list, I'll be like, here's some obvious ones. But look, these things fall out of popularity. They fall out of favor. They get outdated. They become old, like
legacy of a decade.
It's what happens. But the good thing is, much like with Betrayal, we circle back and give it a whole fresh coat of paint. New rewards, new systems, new interactions, or step forward the storyline and evolve it into a mini sequel sometimes as an option. You know, there's all these kinds of things that are completely things we could do. So like, you know, purely hypothetical. Maybe you're now later on you're just delving and oh my god, there were the 3 cities and now there's a 4th city with a 4th boss and you have what is this thing I'm fighting? You know,
100% confirmed.
Again, now because I've said, hypotheticals have to become realities.
100% confirmed. Also, just like the Blight overhaul coming next week, and in my mind, you didn't even say it, but like temples are getting reworked. And I was like, you didn't even say it, but I said that in my mind, and now it's true. So. I'll hold you to that.
Cannot confirm nor deny.
Phenomenal. Some rapid fire quality of life things to kind of follow on from the bestiary mention. We have like the ideal things in your inventory from PoE 2.
Hope you're doing well.
Would love to see
How's
it.
It going? It's going pretty well.
Any reason why it couldn't be a thing?
Let's fucking go. We have
Do you hate it?
the reveal.
Do you hate my hands?
I can't remember.
And we're waiting for the patch notes.
Control click at NPC.
It's on my list. It's still on my list. It's I have my here's all the quality of life stuff. It
Hope
was
you
like,
guys are doing well as well.
there was a section where it's
And
like
you as well.
to discuss later again, and I put it in that, and I actually genuinely cannot remember why it wasn't just immediately and obviously doable.
Yeah, it seems like the thing if you want to do, you'd be like, yes, do it. So I assumed something up.
There was one thing that was like blocking me from just being like, hey, 100% just do it. I just can't remember what it was, but it's a thing we can get around and make happen for sure. But like, yes, the being able to go to town and ID all was very useful, and hideout as well was an extreme upgrade that I liked. So.
Well, tell me who whatever dev is working on that, I'll go make them lunch or something so they can focus.
Sir, next leap seems very juicy in terms of loot and things to do. Yeah,
because if I'm going to be held to things I'm saying, you're going to now buy them lunch. So
Okay.
That thing was probably Jonathan.
Some of the older bosses with phases, Chimera is the one that stands out to me. Is like
immunity phases.
Yeah, just like really long immunity phases. In Chimera. They feel quite dated at this point.
Katarina got the same treatment, where it's just like. Oh, okay. Like, you know, maybe like 40 immunity phases is just a bit much. It's not. I don't know what the number was. It wasn't that, but like it was.
Please
just
change Chimera.
But yeah, a lot of those are going to need a bit of overhaul as well. It's hard to justify going back and spending a lot of time on that, but there's sometimes very easy things we can do because instead of doing that, we could just be making a brand new boss that's like way more epic, way more fun, and fits into a more modern and core thing. Whereas like some of those are just like very high end game, get some fragments. It's one boss of 4 that then gets to a pinnacle, and like you know, you want your pinnacles to be good. You certainly want your end of line bosses like you know Katarina to be good, and that having as many immunity phases as it was just doesn't hold up now. Like I would say it didn't even really hold up then either. It just again it takes you to really back out of the new stuff and go back and look at the thing to go what is actually wrong with this, and look through everything and go yeah there's actually more bad here than I thought. And then you go through and fix it all and change it all and revamp it all and you know do it again X years later.
It's been a while since we talked about this, but with a discussion about gold and the currency exchange, I feel like it's worth revisiting. Just like, how do you feel that the old trade manifesto holds up from way back in the day? Like now, in light of,
I would say that the currency exchange, like, kind of definitely shows that there's a. I mean, it's not like we didn't know there wasn't demand for instant trade, right? But the currency exchange definitely helped things a lot. And I know that we still want to do more stuff. Like I've kind of talked a little bit before about how there's other things we want to do, and I still think we want to do it. The main thing is that like the gold allows us to make it so that there can be a cost that isn't the cost of having to do the actual trade. With individual other people, and so I do think there is a world where we can go to where we can have a different system. We'll probably prototype that in PoE 2 first, I reckon, where we still don't have a permanent standard economy that. I mean, okay, in PoE 2 we've got an economy that will exist forever, but that's not going to be standard, right? Because that'll be the early access economy that will stick around. So we've still got an opportunity here to completely damage the economy without while being able to recover from it.
I know from my perspective, when the currency exchange came out, I was like, after we played, and it was such a relief of friction that I was like,
you were like, oh, this is all we ever need.
Maybe this is enough. And then now after, and obviously then it started coming back a little bit. Then playing 020 on PoE 2, and then going to trying to trade for more items. I was like, I'm reminded of all the frustrations. I'm like, we definitely need more than just the currency exchange. So,
Right.
I would say we scoped it out. We wanted to see if it was better enough, and then I was just like getting beyond angry trying to trade, and I'm like, why is the whole server AFK? You know,
I think it might have been
For
worse in
real,
PoE 2,
true.
I think more
it
players
was.
like
It
it's
was, yeah.
So
what
there's
I
that as
found
well.
in PoE 2, a fun little trade thing, is when I first started, people didn't know. Go to you invite them, they come to your hideout.
Basic etiquette
And I'm like,
stuff. is
are you
just
coming?
lost.
What's going on? And then they're sitting in Act 2 town, just like waiting
One
for
of
me,
us,
and I'm like,
one of us.
I'm like, oh, okay, I get it. No one knows that you just go to your hideout. That's a new thing to have to learn.
Oh, and
so,
it's shifted as well. Like weird new kind of like things of like culture things have
Right.
grown out of that. Just like kind of independently. From
That is
different,
really
like, new
interesting,
people
isn't it?
versus pre-existing PoE players, and it's become a strange little.
it's
thing.
real fun to watch, eh?
Yeah, it's an interesting little social experiment thing going on, isn't there? But yeah, I think like I think what you've touched on there is that it does just kind of raise the question of like, oh, where should the friction be? The friction being in gold feels really good. I think
That is exactly
rather
the
than
thing that
UX.
we would prefer, right?
Yeah.
The thing that's going to be the question is that if gold is the only friction, it still needs to be that the cost of it is enough. So the thing that the trade manifesto talks about basically is you get this issue with you don't get it with currency. So doing it for currency is actually fine because. Currency, it acts as a sink. It is currency, so it's okay to have like fluid trade for that. When you start getting into items, then you start to have that issue where the stuff at the top is worth like astronomical amounts, and the stuff at the bottom is worth nothing. And like any trade will cause that, but the easier trade is, the more you get that. So you've kind of got this if trade it was very hard, you get like a flat line. You can turn into more of an exponential growth curve as you as trade becomes easier and easier. So effectively, you just have to make sure that we're hitting the right point. And what I worry about, and this is one of the things as well, if we first do something like this, we're probably going to have to price the gold cost pretty high as a starting point,
for sure, yeah.
and then kind of maybe back it off as we see like what the effect is, because if gold is the only barrier, then you're going to see that kind of issue.
Well, gold's like a direct kind of translation of your like play time / play
Exactly,
quality, your efficiency
and so
to that trade capacity.
So the fact
right?
that it works that way, where it's effectively character, like bound to you, effectively means that we can use it this way, and that's kind of the difference between us and other games. So I think it will work, but it's like
makes it
we're just going to have to be very
possible,
careful. 100%.
Because I 100% get like the concern about it, because this is about like what you're actually putting on your character and circumventing whether you actually do any gameplay for
Absolutely.
that. But this makes it so that you are doing gameplay for that, and it's an alternate method. And
So we have to be careful, especially in the early game, where if you can just get something that some high level player just doesn't care about anymore, so they sell it for nothing. And then but it costs you, but it
still has to cost you
then effectively
something.
costs it sort of needs to cost you something. So we just have to make sure we're getting that right. So when we do it, it'll we're gonna have to be very careful around that stuff for sure.
Yeah, and I mean, even if it was just kind of like you can only really like realistically do a couple items a day, then it's not your bulk trading kind of method.
Can be,
it
yeah,
exists
something like
alongside the existing one or something like that. That could be a prototype for it. So it seems like it feels possible now, whereas before it was like a no way never. That's crazy.
It is possible now for sure. It is possible.
Which is it's just I'm excited to see what you do to experiment with that. Mark seems keen.
Won't be too far away, I think.
Bloody
but,
AFK people.
As I said, I'm pretty sure we're gonna.
Pretty
sure we're gonna prototype
Bloody
PoE 2 first.
AFK people.
We've got a bit more leeway there.
Ragey.
Like you said, I mean that shows a bit of like a love and sanctity to Path of Exile 1 there for the people maybe concerned that you don't care about.
Old school RuneScape
Yes.
player driven
Yeah.
economy.
And just one more note, and all you people who are listing items,
Here he goes, rant time.
and then you're not even AFK, you're in a map, and you're just not replying.
Don't list it for that
Stop
price
it.
if you don't want to sell it.
Please
Stop it.
Please. Or actually, no, you're going to keep going now because then you're going to have more drive to get this new system implemented. So yeah, it backfires, but
There is
whatever.
There is that. Make trade as bad as possible to motivate you
No,
guys.
we're not having some accelerationist concept here. That's terrible.
And that is the note that we'll wrap up the Q&A on today. Thank you very much, folks, for hanging out with us. And thank you, Jonathan and Mark, for answering our questions today. I look forward to
patch
playing
notes,
more of
patch
Secrets of the
notes.
Atlas and Mercenaries of Trathus.
Right now.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah,
Everyone has fun, and we're back.
Yeah,
Yeah, we're so back. We're so back. So back. See you later, guys.
See you later.
Hey, the vibe was so much better for this live stream. Oh my god. Mark was having way more fun as well. Reading time. Yup, it's reading time.